You rolling?
Rolling?
You hope so? Check,
Hope
check,
so.
check. 1, 2, 1, 2.
Looks good.
All right.
Sounds good. Go flight.
3, 2.
Why do you think Glenn has such a problem with this?
I don't know.
It's just
Seems
weird.
So easy.
Yeah, I just pushed a couple of buttons and it came up, and it's.
You really didn't have to push that many buttons.
I didn't. Yeah, I just opened the template and
We
it was
were
ready
paranoid,
to go.
and we pushed more buttons than we needed to.
Yeah, I know. He's always over here fiddling with wires and talking to mics and talk for me and check this and do that, and I think it's just to make himself feel important. Really, is what it is.
I bet that's what it is.
I think he's really trying to make it seem like we couldn't possibly do the podcast without him.
And this week we'll prove him wrong.
Traveling the Vortex.
We joined the Doctor as he travels the Vortex and landed at episode number 103. You want weapons? We're in a library. Books. The best weapons in the world. The room's the greatest arsenal we could have. Arm yourselves.
I'm armed. Are you?
I am, and I'm Keith.
I'm Shaun. Glenn is on holiday.
Yes. Off to Disney World, and hopefully he's having a great time.
Greatest, happiest place on earth with his family and 50,000 of his closest friends.
While the rest of us are back here and working his shift.
Suffering. Moving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How was your weekend?
It still hasn't ended.
Well, you're done with school now for the
I am done
the
with
holiday.
school, which is a very nice blessing.
When do you go back?
I don't know, January sometime.
Nice.
Mid-January sometime. It's away.
I always remembered in high school and middle school that I thought, wow, college kids have like a month off. And it seems that's shrinking more and more. But it's still pretty close.
It's still a month. It's pretty close to a month. But it's, of course, it seems like it's a lot.
When you don't have to.
When you're not in school, it seems like it's a really long time. When you are in school, it's like, oh, I got to go back and do this again. I mean, it's just that kind of. No, I'm not ready. I mean,
or when you're used to only 2 weeks.
Yeah,
it seems like a really long.
That
time.
It killed me when the year that I went and I actually took a summer class and went back, and had. I mean, it was all online, but it was still.
Well, it's still school.
It was still school, and so that all of a sudden was this huge adjustment because I'm in class again, literally like 3 weeks later. I mean, it was a quick break. And it's like, oh, man. Okay. And then you got it done with that. And then you had to come back for the August. And you were I was in school all the time. But then, I didn't do it this year. And it was like, I've got 3 months off. So, yeah.
See, and never going to college and coming from a work perspective, I'm like, wow, a whole month off? I don't know what I'd do with myself.
Well, I moved.
Yes, how'd the move go?
Still going. That's not fair. We were very fortunate. We did not think we would be able to get into the new place.
Because you got in early.
We got in early. We were anticipating probably, at best 2:00 Friday, more likely 5:00 Friday. We got in at 9:30 in the morning.
Nice. And Mel took Friday off?
Mel had taken Friday off, and I think that probably had a lot to do with it. When he realized that she was going to be available to do it, he was like, well, let's just do it. Because he didn't want to get up on a Saturday and come out and do it. So he's just like, I'll just give it to you Friday. And we're like, sweet. So I'd arranged to get a U-Haul, and we got it about noon. It was about 1 by the time we get everything checked out and whatnot. And headed over and got the first load of stuff from Mel's and filled the U-Haul. And took it over and unloaded, and then went to my place and got a load of stuff and took it over and unloaded. And that took the good chunk of the day, and we had some great friends that stepped up and helped out. And where were you?
I feel bad that we didn't help. I do.
No, you didn't want to be there for it. It was ugly. The thing is,
I would think moving Mel's stuff I wouldn't have had a problem with. helping you move out of your apartment would have been really depressing.
It still is in a way. Here's the weird thing, though. So we load up Mel's U-Haul, and you know how you move. You move. What do you got? Okay, we've got boxes, and then you've got furniture. Those are the two. Yeah. Those are the two items. Well, we've packed. Now, I say this because we had 11 days notice. This was a really quick turnaround because when the place happened to become available. So it was like, oh, man. So 11 days, 2 households. Got her stuff packed up.
One of the households has 3 people living in it.
Yeah. I mean,
plus a frequent guest.
It's a townhouse with my stuff in it.
Yeah.
So. And then my 2-bedroom apartment. So, but we got her stuff boxed up, and the kids. Of course, I was on Billy all week long, dude. Friday, you got to be ready. You got to get. I'll get to it. No, you're not. You got to get to it. I will. And he didn't. So he was packing day of. Now, for the record, I'm a moving fool. I will help anybody any day of the week, any time. There's something wrong with my brain wiring. I love helping people move. I don't like boxing my stuff up and moving it.
No.
It's just a whole nother kettle of fish.
There is a little bit of fun in boxing everything up and unpacking it I forgot I had this as you take it off the shelf, and there's a layer of dust an inch thick.
we did a lot of that. There's nothing like moving to let you know what a horrible housekeeper you are. Oh,
well,
wipe that down before you, And
in Mel's case, she found a pair of shoes that had never been worn.
She bought a pair of shoes, and she had this pair of shoes that she really liked, and so she bought 2 of them.
Oh.
Just because she wanted to have, that extra pair. And they've been in the bottom of the closet, and the ones that she was actually lamenting earlier in the week that, man, these shoes are about ready to go away, and I don't know what to do, and everything like that. And then we were packing up, had a box full of shoes in the closet, and what is that? I don't know. It's a shoe box. And I opened it up, and she squeed, just ear piercing. And Mel, she doesn't squee over much. Shoes. Because these are the good ones. So she was thrilled and immediately said, "You don't have to pack those." Took them from me, went and wore them the next day.
Nice.
We got that, and then of course got all the big heavy furniture and all that kind of stuff into the U-Haul. And I'm looking at this going, this is not a well-packed truck. I'm not sure exactly what happened. I mean, no disrespect to anybody who helped us move, because obviously we couldn't have done it without these guys. But I'm just looking at it going, something's not right here. And Patrick even admitted later, he says nobody was filling in with boxes as we were putting big stuff in. So it kind of did this
angle down,
as you get to the bottom. But we got everything out of there. And then, of course, the stuff that's left is the little oddball, the junk.
The random.
This didn't fit into one of my categorized boxes. So it's sitting here, and now we're packing it the next day going, hey, I don't know what this is. So we get her stuff over. Then we get to my stuff. And we're packing and putting it in the truck. And I look at it, and it's like a Tetris board. It is beautiful. It's aligned and everything. And then we get the furniture in there, and it just everything slid in just beautiful. And I'm looking at this, and I was like, apparently I own square stuff. Everything I own is square because it fit all right in there. So, but yeah, that was the Friday, and then Saturday we went back, got another load of stuff from Mel's, which included the washer dryer, kind of that stuff, and missed out on going to the Hobbit. There were some plans afoot to go on Saturday night with a group of friends, and we were kind of like, it's probably not going to happen. And then as Saturday wore on, it was like, we're really close. Let's push. And then the last thing was kind of like, well, it's the fish tank. Now, I don't know if any of you have fish. I don't have fish. Mel has fish. I want to make that very clear.
I've never moved fish.
These are not my fish. I take no responsibility for these fish.
And this is not a goldfish-sized bowl.
No. Mel has 2 55-gallon tanks.
Which one is empty?
The godsend is that one's empty at this point. She had turtles, and they met with an untimely end and went back to the pet store because turtles are stinky, nasty animals. They're not pets.
Which I'm kind of surprised by that.
They're not good pets. You can't touch them. I mean, you can pick them up and play with them, but then you immediately have to go wash your hands because they carry all these weird salmonella diseases and stuff like that. And I'm kind of against any animal that you keep in your house that you cannot pet. If you can't pet it, it's not a pet.
Well, that's a good point.
Fish are pretty. I'll give fish that. They kind of at least have that going for them that you can sit and look at them. But you can't play with them.
Well, depending on the fish. You can't take them out of the the tank, but you could play with them.
You can take them out of the tank and play with them too.
Well, there's that too.
They don't like that too much. Anyway, so fortunately one of these tanks is empty. So that one, whoosh, no problem, in the truck. The one that's got fish in it. Now, Mel, God love her, she labors under the delusion that by draining 30 gallons of water out of the tank and leaving just enough for the fish to kind of still bob in there without panicking too much that somebody lowered the ceiling, the tank will now be manageable. It's 20 gallons of water.
But not as easy as empty.
It's 20 gallons of water. And Adam did some quick arithmetic, and he was like, well, that's only 160 pounds. Yeah. And then you got glass.
And the rocks.
Oh, yeah. I don't know what this thing weighs. It feels like it's 9,000 pounds. So she looks at me and is like, can you get it? Now, keep in mind, I had a stroke, so I shouldn't be picking stuff up at all. And I've been doing it all weekend. It's like, no, I don't have it. And Billy's, I'll get it. Because he's in that manly stage. He's 14 and can do no wrong. So he grabs a hold of this tank, and they start walking across the thing. And Jesse and I are kind of on the sides, just kind of help support the middle while we can. Well, Jesse peels off early because of the contours of Mel's living room, and we're into the doorway. And I happen to notice as I'm about to let go because we're squeezing down into that funnel point. I'm about to take my hands away and let the two of them get it. And I notice that Billy's end is getting lower and lower and lower and lower. And he's yelling at me, let go of me, let go of me. I was like, I don't have you. I only have one hand under the tank at this point, and I can tell that it's scraping the ground now at this point. Yeah, they only made it to the doorway. And then Billy kind of backed off and was like, I can't get it. So
it's one thing lifting it. It's one thing lifting and walking with it.
Yeah. So what happens? Shaun gets to get down there and He-Man up from the floor. Not from the stand where it was, from the floor. And I do this squat thrust. And veins are standing out on my head. I look like one of those Olympic wrestlers.
No offense to you. I'm surprised you didn't throw your back out because I think I would have.
I threw all kinds of other things out. I kid you not.
The back was already thrown. That's why.
I kid you not. Well, and then of course it's in the truck, right? Yeah. We have to pick it up out of the truck and carry it into the new place and put it in its position and all that kind of stuff. And I looked at Billy and he kind of looked at me and I just give it here. And so
the two of you should have got it together on one side. One on each corner, Adam on the other end.
The problem is it's awkward. And fish tanks are because of the way the glass is constructed, you can't flex them. You can't, it has to be a very...
rigid.
Because if one person's carrying it this way and it warps the tank and everything and that can shatter and all kinds of bad things can happen. Okay. It's just a nightmare. It's just a nightmare to move. And I did. I actually had a kind of a relapse attack and I had the whole left side of my body go numb again.
Oh.
And so it was kind of like, I'm out of it for a little bit, and I'm going to get some ibuprofen and not touch anything again. And
at least you recognize that.
Yeah, Mel came in later and was like, are you okay? And I just looked at her and said, I love you very much, but fish tanks have now made my official list with pool tables and pianos for things that I am never moving again. I've moved all 3 of those items, and I won't do it again, ever. So yes, moving fool, willing to help. Unless
there are caveats.
This is where there's an asterisk next to the thing, and you scroll down to the bottom. No fish tanks, no pianos, and no pool tables. But yeah, so we did that, and then my stuff. There's still I've got like a bookcase and some little odds and ends and books, and my kitchen. I haven't unpacked it, or I haven't packed anything in my kitchen yet, but I'm not in big rush to get out like she was because of the lease agreement. So, but she's completely done. We spent Sunday, getting a little bit of, a couple loads of things like, bikes. We had to move the bikes over in Will's truck and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I got the U-Haul back and
nice.
And in record time, we got that back in a day. It was just moving stuff in the pickup. But we got that fish tank set down, and then of course, well, now what do? You've got it's not like you can go, okay, let's hit the movie, because you've got a fish tank with 3 inches of water in it, and they're all looking at you going, you got to fill it back up. So of course we had to go out before we moved the fish tank and buy water, because these are the special fish, mm-hmm. and you got to put water in the tank, and then you got to put chemicals in the tank so that the fish don't go into shock and die suddenly, because I don't know, they're just finicky animals. So I kind of was looking at my watch. I kept looking at this tank. And I looked at the water going into the tank. And I looked at my watch, and I had to send Patrick a text like, "Yeah, Hobbit's not happening tonight." But we were ready to go by Sunday, so got her out, and things are good. Now, of course, it's a matter of unpacking and putting everything in its place, which sucks almost as much as.
So did you guys figure out what you're doing with the DVDs? Are you did you put both or DVD shelves up and are just having duplicates? Or are you boxing up the duplicates?
It's still a
because Mel has almost as big of a collection as you do.
Mel has the identical shelf. She commissioned my DVD shelf for me,
stained, and
then turned around and decided she wanted one because she had almost as many DVDs as I do. And yeah, hers is stained. And we discovered when we took them apart and put them back together that hers is a little more sturdily constructed than mine too.
Is hers not bowing in certain spots?
Now, admittedly, mine's been taken apart and put together a few more times. Hers was built in that place, and this is the first time it's been moved. So, but we determined that what we're going to do, at least for now, because it's one of those things. It totally makes sense to do it. We should totally integrate. We should totally just bite the bullet and say there's no reason for the both of us to own copies of The Amazing Spider-Man on Blu-ray in the Steelbook. It's just overkill, right? Mine's not even open. It would be very easy to take it back to the store and get some money back for it. But here's the thing.
Being the DVD files you guys are.
We've talked about integrating other things. We're going to integrate our silverware and our tables, and furniture and different things of that nature, kind of creating a conglomerate of stuff. But man, the DVDs, both of us, the hackles went up, and it was just like, I don't know if I'm comfortable with that. And she's like, I'm not comfortable with it either. And it's weird because
at least you both are on the same page.
Yeah, that's what. It's not like one of us is saying it, the other person.
You guys said that during Friday Night when you guys said you were going to move, and Sarah and I came back home, and I'm like, we were lucky that you didn't have that many DVDs. We didn't have to worry. You didn't have to worry about it. Most of her DVDs I didn't have, so it worked out to my favor.
Well, and I'll be. This is going to sound really weird. With my second. God, I hate saying it. With my second marriage, there were a great number of things that went wrong, mostly on my end. I'm a big enough man that I can admit that. But the one that, of all the things I could feel bad about, of all the things I could really feel horrible, and I do, I feel horrible about a lot of them. But the one that really, really gets to me is the fact that when we moved in together and got serious, one of the things that we did was we integrated our movie collection. And she didn't have a huge movie collection, but she had a lot. Not like mine, but, she had a lot. And a lot of it was stuff that, I've got it on DVD, you've got it on VHS, so let's get rid of your copy. Or let's do this and let's sell that, and then we'll turn around and buy something else. And, we covered it together, and we agreed to it and whatnot, and then did that. Well, then in the disintegration of said marriage, there wasn't anything of hers left because my collection kind of wound up absorbing that, and just because I already had it, so she was the one that sold a bunch of stuff, and then we bought new stuff, and I gave her that stuff, but at the same time, it just, how many movies do you have to go out and rebuy? I mean, you went through this with yours.
I went through this too. We were a bit more even on ours. And I took the opportunity to replace a lot on Blu-ray. So
yeah, you turned it into a silver lining.
I did turn it into a silver lining. And it gave me the fourth copy of Serenity I've owned.
Well, Serenity and Star Wars, those are the two that you just keep rebuying.
Because I don't think it was ever released on VHS. It might have been. I don't think so. I think it was, but I had it on UMD also. Because I had a PSP.
Speaking of worthless formats.
But yeah, so I understand that that feeling.
It's just that it's weird that's what sticks in my craw that I feel bad about, right? I mean, of all the things to feel bad about, there's that. But I do. I feel bad. So both Mel and I are kind of like, no. So since the basement is kind of becoming the new studio apartment,
yes.
Because it's just a huge open space, which, by the way, we're probably going to do something for New Year's if we can get everything unpacked. So plan on coming over and
will do.
Getting stupid. Because we do that once a year. Yeah. Because that's going to be the kind of studio apartments, we've kind of got a little area over here that's going to be the living room, and a little area here for my office, and then the bedroom. And Mel and I just moved downstairs, and the kids kind of have the run of the upstairs. So she's got her movie collection, which is already back up.
Oh, that's the first thing they always go back up.
It's the first thing to go back up, and people looked at us like, wow, you already got the collection unpacked? And it's like,
that takes up the most boxes.
Yeah. For hers, it was, she had 12 boxes of DVDs. I've got I think I'm at 18 somewhere in there. So, it makes it look like, hey, we put the shelf together, get it up. It's a pile of wood that's not in the way. We get the boxes unpacked, and it looks like we made this huge amount of progress today. Mm-hmm. All you did was a DVD shelf, but there's so much more room now. So, yeah, mine will go downstairs.
It took me so long to unpack our DVDs, only because I didn't think it would fit on my bookshelf.
Yeah, well, you were dealing with that. That's
which I still haven't. It's not all there. I have my games on there too, and it falls onto the floor.
Yeah, but you're working on that.
Yeah,
that's actually the next step. I don't have mine together. Hers are up, mine are not yet. But that's because we've decided he's given us permission to paint, and so we kind of figured, well, this is the wall we want to paint, and that's the wall the DVDs are going on. So I'm not going to put the shelf together and then move it. I'm just going to
wait.
I'll wait. And go nuts, and then do it. So
as long as you know where some of the DVDs are,
they're in boxes.
Well, I
can't watch anything right now anyway. I don't have my entertainment center set up yet because it's going to go next to that wall. It's like, I'll wait. And then we're flipping. There's a perfect spot between the fireplace and the patio door for the TV. It's a little catty corner, and it's just going to be awesome. Except she has this entertainment center from hell. It's this massive. It's kind of like a piano, actually. It's a big, long plank for this entertainment center, and it won't fit there. It
stretches the entire length of the TV.
Yeah.
To be fair.
Yeah. Well, and beyond.
Most. Oh, and beyond.
Yeah, it's wider than the TV is.
I didn't realize that.
It's huge, but the corner, you can't do it in the corner. Mine, however, is that little corner kind of glass with the thing in it.
It's even angled.
So we're gonna pull a switcheroo. We put it up in there, and it fit beautifully. So we're gonna take the mounting brackets off of my TV and put it on her TV, and then mount her TV on my stand, and then turn around and put her little display unit thing downstairs in the basement.
Which that'll be fun moving downstairs.
It wasn't. Oh, the couch was a nice. The marshmallow couch for being marshmallow.
It's heavier than it looks.
Oh man! And then that was the one that went up and over the railing.
Rearranged.
Oh, yeah. But I've got your spot all set and ready to go.
Oh, excellent!
Your Sheldon spot is ready.
My Sheldon spot.
But
it's still going to take some time to get used to because I don't know how long it took to get. It moved across the room. Well,
now it's back to where it was for the new. So you're going to be back to your original configuration.
Oh, okay. I'm okay with that, actually. That might work a little better in my favor.
Enough about my move. What did you do this week?
This week, read my book, and then I also watched John Carter.
Oh, how is it?
Good. I was really impressed by it. It's part of my vision also, while I enjoyed the movie and thought it was enjoyable and fun, something about it felt old to me. It has that classic story feel to it. And they talk about this in the bonus feature called 100 Years in the Making that is on the DVD because it was released 100 years after it was released in book. It's literally been
that long since
years.
It was, and this is the first time it's been.
This is the very first time it's ever
adapted.
Been adapted, and they've tried multiple times to get it to work, and they just couldn't do it. In that documentary, they pointed out all the influences John Carter has had on sci-fi, even Star Wars. So there's a lot of it that feels that old school sci-fi. Yeah. fantasy
the
set.
Flash Gordon, the
Flash
Buck Rogers kind of serial stuff.
Yeah, and a lot of the Star Wars princess going to save her, etc., etc. And as they pointed out, just like Star Wars, it's a fantasy set on a sci-fi background. And that's exactly what it is, and it's very enjoyable. There's some tongue-in-cheek moments, especially when he first gets to Mars. And I thought, initially, I don't know why I had this in my head, that Mars was bigger than Earth. It's not.
It's not.
So I don't know why I had that in my head. So I had, for some reason, thought, okay,
those wide open spaces.
This was written in 1912. They didn't know enough about Mars, so the gravity issue would be opposite because we've learned more about them. But it's not. He actually would have less gravity on Mars and would have better muscle mass, and all the things that he goes through totally makes sense. Even now, I don't think they knew that in 1912. Maybe that it was smaller, and they deduced that because they talked about in the documentary that they had just discovered Mars when this book came out. Like shortly before this book came out, and that's what gave him the idea to write this book. Was that they had just...
So the book was 1912.
Literally 100 years.
So, well, now... Because War of the Worlds was written in 18...
Well, I guess they would have known about Mars. Maybe they learned more about Mars.
Well, of course, War of the Worlds also mentions canals and, stuff that we now know is not actually on Mars, but...
This talks about, because it sounds, I don't know if it's actual audio, I really hope it is, from Edgar Rice Burroughs talking about how he got into writing in this documentary. So,
oh, that's cool.
Pick it up on DVD and watch it at least.
I've heard really good things about it. A lot of people have kind of told me the same thing, that it's just one of those unfortunate movies that
it wasn't publicized.
Disney didn't know how to market it.
And
I'll be honest, it scares me because they have Star Wars now.
Well,
it's like you
but the title alone it doesn't matter marketing for Star Wars.
They can just go,
title.
Hey, look, Star Wars is back, and then people will go. But no, I've heard that it's really actually pretty good, but it's just that nobody gave it a shot.
And some of it's goofy, and it has that humor, but overall, it's really enjoyable, and I'm thinking of owning it.
Ooh,
yeah,
that's hyper. Well, of course, now you're an Edgar Rice Burroughs fanatic, though.
Well, I'm a huge fan. Well,
no, you're a fanatic. He's one of your top.
I've only read Tarzan.
Really? I thought you'd read John Carter.
No, I've not.
John Carter Mars.
No,
I thought you had.
A friend of mine at work is reading it actually, and so I've learned a lot of stuff about it through him. But I've never read that.
I thought you had.
And I've only read the first Tarzan book. I tried the second and couldn't get into it.
That was Greystoke, right?
I don't remember what the title was. It's where he's going back to the jungle, and I just could not get into it. The first
Tarzan 2, Back to the Jungle. It was a bad sequel to begin with. What were you thinking?
The first book is so phenomenal, and I love the first book, and I'm a huge Tarzan nut, but I can't get past that one. And the movie makes me want to go and read the books, the John Carter books. Well,
a friend of mine, maybe I'm confusing with AJ, because AJ, one of the guys in my Tribots group at White Washburn, he's a big Edgar Rice Burroughs fan, and I guess John Carter is technically
it came out before
the
Tarzan.
Third book.
John Carter of Mars is actually the last.
It's the last book in the set.
The first one's called A Princess of Mars,
right?
Which a lot of that.
I mean, they kind of took elements from each of them, but
and this is no spoiler, because you kind of gather this just from trailers and just any knowledge of John Carter. They start the opening sequence; it's just John Carter over Mars, and then the end title sequence, it does that sort of thing where the titles show back up, and then it adds of Mars underneath it at the very end.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
And it leaves it open for a sequel, and I wish it would have done well enough to get a sequel.
I don't think it will.
It won't. It didn't.
I'm fairly certain that I read somewhere that John Carter was regarded as one of the
one of the biggest flops.
Flops, yeah, one of the costliest flops of all time. Not necessarily Waterworld class, but
I can see the amount of cost that went into this. All the aliens look fantastic. There are a couple, the big giant white apes that you see in the trailer. Mm-hmm. There's a couple shots that's almost could have been better, but everything else is phenomenal. And the cast, oof. One of the green aliens is, I just blanked on his name, Green Goblin. Willem Dafoe.
Willem Dafoe?
Willem Dafoe does one of the aliens, as does the guy from Wings.
Steven Weber.
No, Sideways.
Thomas Hayden Church.
Yeah, Thomas Hayden Church does another one.
Huh.
And I didn't recognize them. Like, even in their voices. Some of Thomas Hayden Church's I could later once I bud. I was like, that voice sounds familiar. Who is that? And the main bad guy. I'm MDBing now. Hold on real quick.
Did Sarah watch it with you, or did
she did not watch it with me?
Did you tell her she's going to?
I told her how much I liked it, and she was like, "Okay, I might watch it," because I found it at the library. I was able to get it for 3 weeks, not the 7-day, not the 3-day.
The full one.
Mark Strong is in it, as is Dominic West, who plays the main bad guy.
Oh, from Lost.
No.
Yes.
No.
No.
From 300.
Who am I thinking of?
You're thinking Dominic Monaghan?
Dominic Monaghan from Hobbit. Or
yeah,
from
Lord of the Rings and Lost.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Never mind.
He was also in Punisher Warzone.
Who's the bad guy?
His character name is Sabthan. That's Dominic West.
Oh, Dominic West is the bad guy.
Yeah,
okay,
he's one of the bad guys. Spoilers.
La la la.
La la la. He played Theron in 300.
Okay.
Yeah, that guy.
Well, Chrissy liked it real well, too.
Yeah.
So.
I would highly recommend it.
All right.
Also, Sarah didn't work Friday, but her office took her up to Legends and a bunch of other people, and she got a gift card to Legends. And with her gift, as part of a Christmas bonus, with her gift card, she found Series 3 minifigs.
Ooh, the new ones.
The new ones.
Out.
Did you see my picture?
No, I did not.
Okay, hold on.
I've been away from my social media networks and Facebooks and things. I've thrown up the occasional here's something, but yes. And I laughed so hard when I saw your tweet come through. It was like, join me and Shaun tonight for Friday Night Who, and I went, no, probably not so much. And I wanted to, because I was really excited about Time Monster, and I really wanted to see it. It's Pertwee and the Master and everything getting all, and then. Man, just
as the
11:30, and I looked at Mel. I was like, "It ain't happening," because we got to get up and do this again tomorrow.
Well, I tweeted that out, thinking I didn't know you were moving on Friday too.
Yeah,
because you guys only mentioned Saturday.
Saturday was supposed to be the big day,
but she picked up 6 because she got like $100 gift card at Legends.
Nice.
So we got 2 gold Daleks.
Oh, they are very cool looking.
A Handbot.
Which is from the Girl Who Waited episode.
Yes.
Not as cool looking, but still cool.
The Vashta Narada.
Ooh. Hey, who turned out the lights?
Yeah, it's the spacesuit, not a shadow.
It'd be kind of hard to do an action figure of just a shadow.
Yeah. A Cyber Controller, which I didn't have.
Ooh.
And an Ood.
Ood on the loo. Are you going to put this ood on the loo?
No, I still got the knitted one on the loo.
Then you could have oods on the loo.
Oods on the loo, multiple. So she got those, and we opened those up before Friday Night Who. And then Saturday,
ood is really cool. I like the ood. The ood might be my favorite. He's pretty cool. I mean, I love the Daleks.
The Daleks are pretty cool, too. In addition to continuing Christmas shopping on Saturday, we did family pictures with Sarah's brother and Sarah's nephew for Sarah's mom for Christmas. Sarah's nephew is not in the most cooperative stage right now.
Audie's being difficult.
Granted, the lady who did the photographs was fantastic. Got him to warm up, got him to smile, got him to not throw a fit. So it turned out really well, but that was kind of an ordeal, and we didn't want to go help you guys move before we did pictures. This was like, well,
right, yeah, I wouldn't blame you for that.
And so then afterwards, it was like, well, we've got a Christmas bonus. We need more Christmas shopping we needed to do. Let's use that money. And then that's also why we didn't go to Hobbit, because we just didn't have the funds.
Yeah.
But then we also had our friends' Christmas/Thanksgiving get together.
Oh yeah, we did do that
on Sunday nights. And Mel, we draw names for everybody, and Mel got my name this year.
That's how it's supposed to work. See, we do this. We do this. It's not really. Well, it's kind of a secret Santa, but you draw names because we've got such a large group of people. We realized we're going broke.
Too expensive
buying gifts for everybody. So we just decided let's instigate the gift exchange, and we'll draw names, and that's the way it's supposed to work. And then certain individuals sitting across the table from me,
what are you talking about?
apparently still went out and went shopping anyway.
Well,
Yeah.
that's different.
You would have got something anyway, but
That's outside of... That's Traveling the Vortex Christmas. That's not Clontarf Christmas. Because
I think
I got Glenn something too.
Yeah,
so.
I would have too. I think it's very interesting that in our group, the year that we instigated the gift exchange for Christmas is about the same time that we started having a lot more birthday celebrations. So I think we're actually spending more money now because everybody wants to do something for their birthday, and we're not.
Which, no offense to everybody else, but you and Mel are more family, as is Glenn and Blake, than the rest of them.
Well, you
so
did
we
live
buy,
with me,
we buy
so,
for
yeah.
you guys.
Yeah,
that's what we do.
Thank you. Like I said, you got something anyway. Tell them what you got.
But Mel, if you saw my picture, got me the canine ornaments from the BBC shop. And it's already on the tree, and I tweeted a picture. It's fantastic.
It's very awesome.
It's
very
really cool. It's
I almost want one for myself. As soon as when it came in the mail and we opened it up, we went, "Oh, I know what this is." And I looked, I was like, "Oh, that's way cooler than the picture."
Which it gives me a bit more hope, because I've seen the picture online and I thought it looked cool. And then I've seen the TARDIS and the Daleks, and they look more like that blown glass style.
They are. They actually are the blown glass, whereas this one is not.
This is blown glass, according to the box.
Oh, is it?
It's hand-blown glass.
Oh.
So it gives me hope that the other ones don't look as cheesy.
Well, and you guys at home know what we're talking about. You go into Target or Walmart, and they've got those ornaments that just they're shaped lumps of blown glass, but it's painted.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like, oh, look, a choo-choo. But it kind of only sort of reminiscently looks like a choo-choo.
Yeah.
And I'm not a fan of the blown glass ornaments at all. This one, I thought it looked like resin or something, but it is glass, huh?
It's blown glass, yeah. So it gives me hope.
It looks really good out of the package. So
it gives me hope for the TARDIS and the Daleks, and makes me go, maybe I will get those after all.
I was teasing you at the thing, but I'll go ahead and say it here. You better really appreciate it.
Because,
I do. BBC America religiously, ever since we placed the order, I get 3 emails a day from them.
Oh, wow.
Letting me know, hey, did you know you can get free shipping this week? Or, hey, there's last chance for these kind of items in order to get them in your town by Christmas. Or, hey, look at the... And, of course, they spell everything wrong, which is funny, because it's BBC America. You ought to get... But no, it's all...
You ought to spell it American.
Color with a U, and,
there's usually an unsubscribe button.
Yes, I'm aware of this. It's not that I've been busy with, finals.
I just had to throw it out.
And moving.
Did you get results back from your finals?
No, not totally. I can tell you that I am fairly confident that I'm going to get an A in documentary.
Ooh, that's good.
I am fairly confident I'm going to get an A in my mass media boot camp. I am guaranteed a B in anthropology, which I need to send her an email because I my own fault. This is nobody's fault but my own. I was stupid. She told us in class, this is the day this timed essay is due. You do it online. Don't show up to class that day. Go online, do the essay. As soon as you start the thing, it's going to run for this amount of time, and then you have to have it turned in before the clock stops. Okay, no problem. I had alarms set on my phone, on my iPad, on my computer. I had it written down on the dry erase board. Don't forget. Didn't go to class. Don't forget. Okay, I got to do that today. Didn't do it. Just completely got sidetracked with other stuff and blew it off. Wednesday came and I went, oh! I mean, it was like a 50-point test, and I didn't do it. Oh. And so I had to go back to her and say, I'm so sorry. Is there a chance for extra credit? Is there this? She goes, well, we'll do something later in the semester and see if we can make it up. And then I missed the second one. Same thing. Just completely blew it off and forgot about it.
Apparently, this is not the way.
This is not how to do class, let me tell you. So I did all the extra credit assignments, and I worked my butt off the rest of the semester in that class. And, studied, and I did really well in the final, and the final grades came out, and I got a, because I'm sitting here with that loss of 100 points. I was at a D for a while, because you get your, results online. And so I was really sweating it, and I had several conversations with her, because I was like, I'm not a D student. I don't know what's going on. She's like, you'll have the chance. Don't worry. The points just haven't accumulated yet. It'll perk up. So by the time everything was all said and done and the points were added in, I clocked in at a 79.2. And it was like, ooh. Are you kidding me? I missed it by 0.8 per, to get a B. So I sent her an email. I was like, I know it's my fault. I know that I'm the one that screwed it up. Is there any way I could get 0.8 of a point? And she emailed me back and said, I put you in as a B. I was like, oh, thank you, God.
And to know you would, if it would have been a C, to know you would have been 0.8 of a point, would you just killer? Yeah.
Well, and like I said, it's nobody's fault. It's not. I can't come away and go, that stupid teacher gave me a C in that class, or wow, that class was really hard. It was just, I'm not a C student. I'm not really even a B student. I'm glad to have a B in it though, because it was just stupid. I just forgot. Now the French final, on the other hand, yeah.
You think you bombed that one?
I am.
Have you gotten results back?
I have not gotten results.
That's the
one
you're waiting on.
That's the one we're kind of waiting on, and I honestly don't know what to hope for at this point, because if the inevitable happens. I joked about it day of. I was with a friend of mine on campus. He's like, what are you doing now? I was like, I'm going to go flunk French. There's nothing I can do at this point. She hasn't added in the attendance and participation points yet either, but I'm not going to make it.
Well, at least you've tried.
Yeah. That old college try. That's where that expression comes from.
French class.
French class. With everything said and done, I don't know what to hope for, because if I failed, which I'm pretty sure I did, I'm pretty sure I bombed this. And if I failed, well, then it's like, okay, well, it sucks because I'm out the money.
Yeah,
$800 for that class. By the time it's all said and done, just flew away. And I still don't have my credit for the language class, which I have to have 2.
Can I recommend, if you did flunk, switch languages?
Yeah, totally. Well, see, this is just it now. So, okay, so I've got the F. So it's a double whammy, because not only did I not get the credit and get to advance to French 2, not that I want to take French 2, but French 2 is the one that I have to have in order to graduate with a Bachelor of Arts. I can't take French 2 unless I've had French 1.
Yeah.
So I'd have to take it again anyway. But it affects my GPA until I retake it. It's an F, Now, if I retake it, down the road and get an A, well, the A replaces it. If I get a D, the D replaces it. It doesn't matter. It's just not an F anymore. So if I take another class, I still have an F. Because I didn't get it. I didn't get that in Spanish. I didn't get it in German. I got it in French. So
if you retook French 1 and then took German 1, would that count? Could you graduate? Because you have 2 language arts credits.
No, because it would be German 1.
But you got 2 French.
It has to be a 2. It has to be the second half. But that's just it. It's the second half is the one that's important. But they make the one a prerequisite for you to take two. And it's stupid. It's just a way for the university to get money.
It should just be two regardless.
I mean no
2
disrespect.
foreign language credits. Doesn't matter if it's the same language.
I mean no disrespect to anybody that lives in France, but I say this. But this is something that is completely... Now,
and views and opinions are Shaun's.
Okay, send me the email now. Admittedly... I love learning. I love taking classes just for the sake of taking classes. And I did take a year of French in high school, so I kind of thought, well, maybe I'll remember some of it. Week 1 I did. After that, not so much. But this is not something that I'm going to be able to use, realistically. Yeah. Spanish, at least, I'd have, it makes me sick to think about it, but at least I'd have the opportunity to use Spanish in the general course of day-to-day operations. Now, that's not to say, if I were ever fortunate enough to take a trip to France, yeah, I'm going to bone up on the language before I go. I'm not one of those rude tourists that's just going to show up, look you in the eye, and go, where's the bathroom, and expect you to help me.
Yeah.
I'm going to learn just enough to get by and make the effort and make it look like I'm trying. I did not get that out of this class. I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you the time. I couldn't tell you what color your shirt is. I couldn't tell all of those standard French-isms. I got none of it out of this. And again, I blame myself. I don't blame the teacher. It's just the way this particular class was taught is a hybrid, and a lot of it was online. And when you only meet once a week,
well, there's a lot.
It's just a weird thing. So
there's a lot said for hearing the language spoke frequently.
Yeah.
To help learn the language.
Well, that was part of the problem, is because I do the online stuff. Well, the test, all of the homework's online. So what do? You go to Google Translate. Well, that doesn't help you learn it.
No,
I mean, it speaks, which is cool, but then they have the audio portions of the homework where it's blah 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 blah, and you're like. And I'm replaying because they talk very fast and they don't give you a break. They don't break it down like see, spot, run in French. They break it down like we're going to the theater today to see such and such, and then after that we're going to go over here and do this. And we're having all kinds of, and by the way, there's a sale on at Macy's. And you're like, what? I got one word out of that. So, yeah. Enough about French. I don't want to talk French. I don't want to speak French. I don't want to think about French because it's looming on my horizon, and it is a one-legged A. And I'm being positive when I say that.
Well, let's move on to news. Because we spent too much time on what we did this week.
And the killer? As I sat down and she handed me the final in paper, on paper, so I can't cheat. I can't look it up on Google Translate because it's on paper. And the entire
that's why she does it
the entire test is written in French. And the first thing that popped into my head, according to Futurama in the year 3000, French is a dead language. Why am I in this class?
Nice.
What's in the news, Keith?
News. Yesterday, they released a prequel for the Christmas special. Woo! Called Vastra Investigates, which we've posted on our website. What'd you think of it, Shaun?
I liked it.
It was a better prequel than what we got before for Children in Need.
I think so. I think it was very much.
I think it sets the tone a lot better.
I think it sets the tone a lot better. I think it very much. It could be a backdoor pilot to a Madame Vastra show, which I'm still in favor of. Let's see.
Yeah.
I'm still curious about. I love how no nonsense that she is. That she doesn't bother trying to cover up anything.
Yeah.
It's.
I was kind of surprised by that.
Well, and it's beyond the you let your geek flag fly and just be who you are. I mean, she's very adamant that. This isn't a skin condition. She's not like all those shows that we've seen about the vampire hiding as a cop, or or the Highlander doing that. It's just, I'm an alien. I'm not from around here. I'm not really an alien though, because I was here before you were, and I'm a little upset about it. But I've decided you're okay.
But I fell in love, which was a great little bit.
The falling in love bit was great, and his complete inability to even comprehend what just happened.
And part of it, considering their conversation in the carriage afterwards, seems like she's being so open and honest about all of this to help get the doctor's attention. Did you get that impression at all?
Could be.
Because
I don't.
Because
Quite honestly, I don't think so. I think that's just kind of Vastra's.
I
She's
could see it either
kind
way.
of a blunt, straightforward deal with it kind of lady. So I think that was part of it. But I think I think there could be a layer there.
I think there
trying
is,
to get to
because they have that bit about the love, and while they're kind of lovey-dovey inside, once they get in the carriage, that almost ends. And they instantly start talking about the doctor. And if they think the doctor is going to come. So it almost sounds
part of
like...
that's because the name of the show is Doctor Who, not Vastra Investigates.
But the prequel's called Vastra Investigates. So, I don't know. There was just such an abrupt... there didn't seem to be any love in that carriage. Well, I believe that she does. It just didn't carry over. Maybe that was me.
I don't know. I don't know what the standards and practices is over at BBC either. So maybe they were a little bit like, no, they can't snog.
Well,
she's an alien. Are you crazy? She's not an alien. She was here first. You know,
there was still there could have been hand holding or something. It just seemed like they were very business.
Well, that was the everything that came before was just
set up
for that last 30 seconds.
Also.
You had to get is the doctor in this? No, we're concerned about him because he's not. He's pouting. It's snowing. That was the bit of business.
But there's no clouds.
Yeah, that was the important bit of that, and everything else was just window dressing. Realistically, Strax didn't need to be in it, but I was glad he was because it added to that whole thing. Now, I still want to know why he's alive.
Yes,
and in the past, but I'll let that go. And Moffat, I trust. We'll get there. But yeah, no, I thought it was really good, and I think it in a way it pairs up well with the Children of Need prequel.
It makes the Children of Need. I think watching the two back to back, you would enjoy it a bit. The first one a bit more. If you didn't like it. Of course, Glenn would disagree, but
Glenn's going to poo-poo it anyway. He's going to come on and be all like, "Oh, I hated the prequel because it was on television." That's my rationale, and I'm sticking to it.
Also, for Christmas special news,
they were singing cowboys. It was terrible,
and they were all farting around the campfire. There's a wall.
There's a wall behind me. I shouldn't do that.
He's sitting in a different chair, people.
Yeah, this is kind of a new view.
It's my normal view.
It's your normal view.
And I'm in Glenn's normal view.
Well, at least you have a good view.
That's true.
You get to look at me tonight. I look like hell. I don't wish you. I've been moving for 3 days straight. I look like I haven't slept in a month.
BBC Books has announced the release of a second Doctor Who ebook written by Justin Richards,
who wrote the book that I'm reviewing tonight, Apollo 23, which we'll get to momentarily.
And this book is set prior to the events of this year's Christmas special, The Snowmen, and features Madame Vastra, Jenny, and Strax. It's called Devil in the Smoke. You want the synopses?
Can you... what's the word I'm looking for? Condense the synopses? We don't want to spoil it. Give us a tagline. Give us something to...
A tagline.
Give us something cool. Nugget it.
I can't do it. Madame Vastra, the fabled lizard woman of Paterno Row, knew death in many shapes and forms, but perhaps one of the most bizarre was death by snow. How's that?
Ooh. But it's not. It's not a novelization of.
It's not
the Snowman.
It's
because it sounds like it is.
It's a prequel. Yeah. So they haven't. It will be published December 18th. Oh, today. Technically,
yes,
it's out today.
It is well now. Because we're recording a day late because
we're recording a day late, and now it's technically Tuesday. So
Tuesday. If you're listening to this today, it's today. If you're not listening to this today, you missed it.
It was Tuesday. So
that brings up an interesting point, though. I didn't think of this. Is the fact that Vastra is a Silurian. She is reptilian. it's snowing. Could that
affect her?
I mean, we're
she
kind
is cold-blooded.
We're kind of I don't know about you. I'm kind of anticipating. All right, we're going to get some Vastra action in this. We may not. She may be out of commission for large chunks of this.
Honestly, I kind of hope to go with that.
I don't know.
That would give a lot of good thought into her Silurian nature.
It would. And I think the fans would be screaming and throwing things at the television because then the reviews would be, Madame Vastra wasn't in it enough. And we'll be the ones to come out and go, dude, it was snowing.
Or at least have her bundle up a lot. You never see her without her headdress.
Yeah.
Whatever that thing is. So
That
maybe that keeps her warm.
bee bonnet.
Maybe she has some hand warmers or something in her hat too.
Thermal underwear. I feel so bad for the actress because you're doing Victorian, so you've got the corset and the bodice and the dresses and the ridiculous hats and the hand warmers and whatever else is going on. Oh, and reptile makeup.
Yeah, that would be a lot to try to handle. Jenny has it easy.
Jenny's got it real easy. I just show up to work, they put some powder on my face, I'm good to go.
And I get cinched into a corset.
And then there's Strax. It's like, because he looks... I've seen the guy, the interview that you posted on the thing, and it's like, oh, okay.
It's mostly the mouth.
Yeah. But think about the fact that you've got the potato head on, and and they've got him in, obviously, the bodysuit
underneath.
I imagine it looks a lot like the Sontaran armor, is what it looks like, because that's kind of designed to be form-fitting.
Honestly, I just kind of imagined they took the Sontaran armor and they put a tux on it.
That's what I'm thinking they did, is the guy's wearing a suit on so of course he's in the foam rubber and this, and then the body armor, and then a tuxedo. Which makes his comment about, what do you look for? A grenade to get me out of the suit. That makes so much more sense now.
I kind of hope he just, at one point, just grabs and rips it off. Like,
he's got to do it Superman style with his 3 fingers. He's got to grab and pull apart like this with a big S for Sontar on it. You think that's a comic book on Sontar?
I hope so.
Superheroes and...
Sontar Man.
Sontar Man. Hero of Clone Batch 5. We will tell sad tales.
That would be more Captain America.
That would be more Captain
America. Anyways, continuing with news, they've released a few more images of the new console that we're going to see, and the reason why we're getting a new console.
I was a little surprised when the news broke that it wasn't just
the top.
Hey, look, here's a kind of sort of redesigned console. We were like, already? I mean, what's the deal with that? And then we reveal that, it's a completely redesigned console room, and it will debut in the Christmas special. So there's a lot of news coming out with the Christmas special all of a sudden. And there's a part of me that's like, bring it on, I'm ready. I love new console rooms. There's a part of me that's going to be very, very sad to see the old console go. And I really like what we've seen so far, the design of this one. It's just little glimpses. And again, you can check this out on our website, because we're talking about something visually that you can't really cue into. But it just, I don't know about you, I'm excited by it. I think it looks really cool.
I'm excited, but part of me says there's just too much change coming in this one episode. A new outfit, a new companion, and now a new console. Granted, I wouldn't be surprised if the console has very small, or isn't until the very end of the episode that we get the reveal that Clara,
it could be
the bigger on the inside moment for Clara. That's when we see the new console. Also, it wouldn't surprise me.
It could also, they may pull it. They may pull it early. And I don't remember. Did we talk about it on mic last week about how probably the reasoning for it is that the Doctor is so. He's so distraught over.
I think so.
Over Amy and Rory leaving that he's kind of erasing all traces of them, and he's changing himself. He's got the new outfit. He's got this because he doesn't want to be reminded.
But he has elements though, so he doesn't forget.
There are still elements to it, yeah, and I think it's a really interesting take for the character. And of course, we're speculating now wildly. But if this is the way it plans out, because obviously David Tennant's Doctor, the 10th Doctor, held on to Rose's jacket.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And it was
apparently he's getting sentimental in his old age.
Yeah. So I mean, it was there, and it was just kind of. It was just there.
And didn't he hold on to a memento from Martha too?
He might have. There's a wonderful Big Finish audio in the Eighth Doctor range, the Eighth Doctor Adventures. Which is it's weird because it's technically not part of the original line of Eighth Doctor Adventures. It was a Christmas special released as a Christmas special, but chronologically the events of this lead into things that happen in the series. So I'm not really sure where it's to be placed. It's not. If you were to just follow along with the season, it's not there. But you have. It's kind of like Time Crash. You have to insert it here in order to get to work. But they make mention in that episode that apparently the Doctor has saved all of the old companions' rooms.
Ooh.
That there's like a big rotating thing in one section of the TARDIS where you can actually beam up into this room and you can just walk down the hallway and it's all of the old bedrooms. And I thought that was a really cool idea. That's very
cool.
Sentimental, and I liked it. So
I like a sentimental Doctor.
But yeah, I think it's interesting that he's going through that. I'm holding on to stuff and hoarding it, but at the same time, he's pushing it as far away as possible. At least, as that's the impression that we get, that he's so devastated by Amy and Rory being not with him anymore.
Which is the first time, as far as I'm aware, that we've ever seen the Doctor react this way to anybody leaving.
Yeah.
Period.
Hartnell kind of did it with Susan leaving, he just didn't talk about her.
Yeah, that's true.
Out of sight, out of mind, gone. Where to now? Rome. Okay.
I'm gonna go be,
and I'm gonna completely change my personality.
Yeah. Which part of that to me isn't maybe because I'm seeing it in the time period that it came out, that it's them trying to change direction for the show more than for character reasons.
It could be. I mean, it's one of those things.
I mean, this could be for changing directions for the show. I hope it's for character reasons. At least they address the character reasons of why all of this, which they seem to be doing. So
I'd be surprised. I couldn't. Let me rephrase this. I can see them doing it for changing the show reasons.
Yes.
New direction. I'd be surprised if that's what it was, though. Knowing that Moffat has kind of sort of had this grand scheme laid out, going into the 50th, and knowing that this was all, coming to be. Now, between showrunners, like going from, what was his name? Barry Levinson to, or was it vice versa? When they went into the Third Doctor era.
Oh, yes.
And obviously changed everything.
Everything.
We were going to be Earthbound. We're going to be unit-based. We're going to do
not even a TARDIS anywhere to be seen.
I mean that's a huge direction for the show to change like that. And then going, into the JNT era with, a lot more of the Tom Baker directing at the camera kind of, wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Well, even from Hinchcliffe. Well, there's a little bit more bleed over from Hinchcliffe to JNT. Yeah,
and some of the horror elements. And, the show's always gone about this reinvention period. But I think it's more of a, showrunners bring new things to the table as opposed to, I'd be really surprised in the middle of somebody's run that they just went, left turn, let's go over here for a little bit. So, but maybe not. I don't know. We'll have to find out.
We have no idea.
We have no idea. We're
random speculation. But in addition to the new console, which has a very old school feel to it.
Yeah.
Which, that part excites me. This also is coming on the heels of that. A new theme and new title sequence coming for the Snowmen. The new arrangement remains true to the original, written by Ron Grainer back in 1963. But on Christmas Day, you'll hear it's as it's never sounded before. This latest version is more thrilling and powerful, but retains that slightly scary quality that remains stirring no matter how many times you catch it. And they can't give away too much about the new titles, except that they are wonderfully dramatic and striking with a couple of unexpected touches. In short, they're a perfect way to welcome back the Doctor.
Now, that's kind of an interesting way to put it. Again, we can't really talk too much about the theme of it because we haven't heard it. We won't know until until Christmas. New titles was almost kind of I blew it off initially when we talked about it pre-show because it's like, well, there's been new title sequences for all of these that they've changed the font and the Dalek bumps versus the Red Skin. This makes it sound like it's a whole new title sequence. Like going from the Doctor Who tunnel
I think
vision
the Vortex will be different, too.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like
It'll
it
probably
could be.
snowing in the Vortex.
Ooh.
And then you have the Starfield effect that you have when you drive through snow.
Yes. That'd be kind of cool, actually.
That would be kind of cool.
Do you do that in your car when it's snowing and it's just you out on the road and you just like, hit the hyperdrive? Yeah.
Flip on the brights if you're out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah. Never. Ever. I don't know why I randomly thought of this, but because, my line of thought is the snow with hyperdrive pretending. When I was younger, I had this, I think it had to have been a garage door opener in my parents' glove box. And I would pretend when we were driving that it was some sort of flux capacitor. And if we hit 66, we went back in time. Because we were more likely to hit 66 and 88.
You make allowance.
Yeah. I don't know. That just came to me. I don't remember. Know why. Anyways. So, yes. New title sequence. Jumping back in time, we've got some special edition DVDs scheduled for March.
Oh, tell us more.
For March 12th, special edition version of The Aztecs and The Ark in Space will be released. With all new bonus features and some pretty snazzy box art. At least for the Aztecs.
Oh, the Aztecs is gorgeous. I love it.
There's not a big version for the Ark in Space, so it's hard to tell what it looks like. But it certainly looks like a vast improvement over the previous box art.
Oddly enough, I had heard rumors and grumblings about that, and I can let slip that we may be reviewing Ark in Space about that time.
Oh,
maybe.
So perhaps I should pick it up on special edition when it comes out.
That would be wonderful. Because I have the original. But,
and the original's on Netflix.
The original is on Netflix. Which we probably just briefly mentioned that Netflix, if you're a Netflix subscriber, they have done a pretty massive reorganization.
Yeah.
And it's now Doctor Who Classic.
Yes.
Or is it Classics or Classic?
I'm pulling up Netflix right now, so give me a second.
Where we got real excited initially because we thought they had added content to it.
It's called Classic Doctor Who.
Classic Doctor Who is how you search for it now. But it turns out it's just the same episodes that they had, but it's
got 18 collections.
It's broken down a little differently now. So.
Yeah, when they first initially broke it down this way, they did it alphabetically. So that meant Carnival of Monsters was first. The Aztecs was somewhere around 17.
Because it was a T.
Because the T, the.
Which is dumb.
Which is dumb. So luckily they've reorganized it so it's by release date. And that was as of 12/12/12 this year. So all the same stories are there, but if you had all the Classic Who on your instant queue, it's been switched. So if you didn't catch that, go search Doctor Who or Classic Doctor Who and add that to your instant queue instead. Also in the news, K9, the TV series, the spin-off children's series that ran on CBBC, will be airing on the Sci-Fi channel, aka Sci-Fi, all of Christmas Day. The first season will be they will have a marathon on Christmas Day, starting. I'm looking at the time. Hold on, real quick. At 10 a.m. Eastern Time, they will. It kicks off with the first episode, Regeneration, and is followed by every episode back to back in half-hour intervals leading up to the series finale, Eclipse of the Corvarin, from at 10:30 Eastern Standard Time, 10:30 p.m. So it's a 12-hour 12.5-hour marathon.
So you can really get your Who on Christmas, because you can watch K9 on the Silly Spelling Network all day long, and then flip over to BBC America and watch The Snowman.
I'm pretty sure BBC America has a Hoopah marathon too.
They probably will. Although I don't know, did you see? I think the Snowman is on in England. One of the other channels is showing Lord of the Rings, so there could be some really tough competition from Fellowship. But nah.
Pull out the Blu-ray and watch that instead.
No lie.
So I think that's pretty cool. I would kind of hope that if they got K9, maybe they'll get Sarah Jane Adventures, and we'll run that on Siffy.
That's a possibility. They might.
And
it'd be cool if it'd fit in with their programming. It'd be, a heck of a lot better than wrestling and some of the other things that they.
The problem there is it actually fits into their programming.
Oh, how silly of me! They won't do that then.
I'm tempted to try to watch a few episodes, if not the first one, because while it's not the K9 body style that I like, it's still John Leeson.
Yeah.
So the voice is going to be correct. So I'm tempted. Granted, I'm going to be... I won't, because...
You'll be busy.
I'll be busy and I'll be working. So, but I'm tempted. And if I had Siffy. Our last bit of news, which Shaun posted to the website, is that Doctor Who magazine has confirmed that the current series of Doctor Who will return to BBC One in April of next year.
Woo!
Woo! But we don't know when.
We don't know when. They just said April. Now, traditionally, we always get Who sometime around Easter. Now, this year, Easter falls on March 31st. So, it could actually air the 30th, since it's a Saturday. They're not going to change the date. It'll still air on Saturdays. So, it could air this 30th of March on the Saturday before Easter, or they could come the next week.
Yeah.
So,
although I didn't see...
That's, again, random speculation. We know it's coming in April, but that's all we can really confirm.
I didn't see the article in Doctor Who magazine.
I didn't either.
And if they're just aiming... And this doesn't say where the information... put it in context. It just gives us this article I'm looking at.
Just the BBC's confirmed April, but... Well, BBC One has confirmed April.
Yes.
Now, we don't know about BBC America. We assume that it would be day and date.
It wouldn't surprise me if it was the 30th, even though that's not April, because somebody could just said, Easter, yeah, okay, April.
Yeah.
When I think Easter, I think April.
I think April. I've always thought April. I don't know why it's
always
March.
weird that it flux, but yeah, so it wouldn't surprise me if that's where April comes from, as somebody said Easter, and then it got translated.
Just got translated into that.
Yeah.
I'm calling it.
Telephone.
I did so on the website, and I'll call it here. I'm going to say it is actually going to be Easter weekend. So you can prove me wrong in 3 months, but...
Oh, I'm sure less than that, because we'll know before then.
Oh, we should, but...
We better.
Yeah. I don't know. It seemed like there was an awful big lead up to Series 7.
It was a last-minute push.
We cut that down to the wire, figuring that out, So for those of you following along with the schedule at home, the posted schedule on the website is cemented for the time being, relatively. 'Cause we don't have New Who yet.
It's all
but
relative.
We will. It's all relative. In space and dimensions.
And time.
And time. I was forgetting something. Show's about time travel. Which one did you forget? It's another final. There's
feedback.
We've got some feedback. Yada da 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 da. Jazz hands.
Not a lot of feedback this week.
No.
Apparently nobody read the books we read.
Nobody's listening to us. Oh, God, it's going to be Shaun and Keith all episode long. No. I can't take it. Glenn is the glue that holds that together.
You'd think they'd show up just for the tangents. And it'd be geeky tangents, not gutters. Michelle wrote in.
There.
Michelle wrote in and said, "Hey guys, found this video on Tumblr. Thought you would like it. I'll send in proper feedback later." And she sent us a link to a YouTube video of a celebration. It's a sci-fi film tribute.
Ooh.
It's very cool.
Well, we'll post the link to that in the show notes so that people can.
Yes, we will.
Can view it. I have not seen it yet, but again, I've been off the grid for.
It's almost 5 minutes long.
Oh, sweet!
And it covers nearly every sci-fi movie in the past.
I love compilation
20 years.
videos.
Oh, it's so cool.
That's what Glenn was talking about, watching Sesame Street for 6 hours and just stuff like that. I love doing stuff like that. It's just like, oh, let me watch what you got here.
So we'll make sure to include that in the show notes.
Thank you, Michelle.
And it's not just, it's called Sci-Fi The Last Frontier, but it's not just space-based sci-fi either. There's, I know, several clips of iRobot in there, as well as others. So, our other bits of feedback comes from Dr. Phil. He sent in this audio.
All right, well, let's give it a listen.
Hey, Dr. Phil again, traveling the Midwest, Vortex, sending in some follow-up feedback on your archive, the episode discussing Invisible Enemy and the Sunmakers. By the way, when I was commenting about achievement unlocked, it was meant achievement for the listeners noticing me driving across the Midwest, because you can't keep unlocking the same achievement. That makes it silly on my part. Anyway, getting on to the Sunmakers, I know I didn't send any feedback regarding that, is that Robert Holmes, one of the greatest writers of whoever, had gotten a really unpleasant surprise with his tax bill, and that's where the story of the Sunmakers comes from. So if it feels rather Marxist and left-leaning regarding taxation, that's it. And of course I agree with Shaun's description that, hey, it's Weyland-Yutani. Unfortunately I think, in a way, seeing films like Avatar even cheapen that idea of a greedy space company a bit. But anyway, that's a bit of a side trip. But one thing that you guys might not have noticed is that at this point in their relationship, Louise Jameson and Tom Baker were not getting along particularly well. And so, in regards to the Sunmakers. And so that's why Robert Holmes decided to give her own storyline separate from the Doctor for a good portion of the story. And as you guys pointed out, she shines a great deal in that. Kind of discussing a bit further as a little bit of a side note, I listened to the Tom Baker Leela series of audios that Big Finish have put out, the first series, making up of Destination Nerva, Wrath of the Iceni, Renaissance Man. Actually, Renaissance Man comes for Wrath of the Iceni. Energy of the Daleks, Trail of the White Worm, and the Poseidon Adventure. Don't we love puns on the Poseidon Adventure, the Poseidon Adventure? I'll make a couple comments that are mildly spoilery, but generally it captures the feel of mid to late 70s Doctor Who very well. After I think just a few minutes, I didn't even feel that Tom Baker's voice was that significantly different. I think once you get used to it, because of his age. But Wrath of the Iceni stands out as a favorite for great performance by Louise Jameson. Also, the Poseidon Adventure kind of gives away the fact that it's a callback to one of Shaun's favorite stories, the android invasion. Also, in the Wrath of the Trail of the White Worm, Liz Shaw, Carolyn John's husband, who plays the Master and the Keeper of Traken, reprises the role of the Master. Now, in The Deadly Assassin, it's Peter Pratt, but at the end of the story, you can see that as the face is on the screen, is that the Master is kind of semi-regenerating. So it kind of sets up the fact that Jeffrey Beavers can play the Master across Tom Baker's Doctor before Keeper of Traken and still be effective. At the end of the series, they have a trailer for next year's series of Tom Baker audios, which is with Mary Tam. So they have an entire series of Mary Tam as Romana 1 after set after Key to Time, with John Leeson as K9, of course, or K9 Mark II. So that might be a bit of mixed emotions when we all hear those audios, since she just recently passed. Also, Series 3 has already been revealed that Series 3 of the Tom Baker Fourth Doctor Adventures is going to be the Doctor, Leela, and K9 Mark I. So we'll get more John Leeson in the next, 2 seasons of the Tom Baker Fourth Doctor Adventures. So I thought I might as well bring that up for a second. And really enjoying the discussion on the Invisible Enemy, by the way. And I'm not exactly sure why the Invisible Enemy always gives me such warm feelings of nostalgia from when I was young watching Doctor Who, because I would do things like try to marathon as many stories in one day of Tom Baker as possible. So I'd get, start at Robot and just go straight through the omnibus editions watching. I don't remember how long I would actually get, but I know that after watching Doctor Who for 12 hours, I'd have to give up, because you can't make it through all of Tom Baker in one sitting, or you probably would die. I tried to do that when I was in middle school. I don't know what I was thinking, but one thing that is really neat about the Tom Baker audios and Big Finish is the gentleman who's doing the music for that particular series does a really good job of capturing the Dudley Simpson flavor of the era, so it kind of really feels like the sound design and the music really make you feel like, in a way, that you're back in the era. I think the end of the series feels a little bit more like modern Big Finish, but especially the first few feel great. And it's great hearing Louise Jameson up against the Daleks. Favorite quote of Louise Jameson, this is not giving away any plot elements. Favorite quote from the series was in Renaissance Man, that Leela refers to Renaissance as runny science. And I think favorite quote ever from Leela, I have to say, and that's from listening to a lot of Big Finish Leela stories. So anyway, keeping fingers crossed, by the end of the week we should hopefully have a recording of we did some recording early in the week of the Andrew Edwards had arranged City of Death for the ensemble. So hopefully there'll be a recording of that'll be floating around on the interwebs shortly. And I have to say, it's like, when this is rarely when you get to record something do you feel that your 12-year-old self is going, God damn it, yes, this is awesome. One of the times was recording City of Death. The other one was getting to a recording session when I was in college at Skywalker Sound, which was awesome. So just a couple random highlights. But anyway, keep up the great work. Can't wait to hear next week's, and I'm going to go back to finishing the Traveling the Vortex on K9 right now. So take care, all, and happy time at Disney for Glenn. Okay, bye-bye.
As always, thank you, Dr. Phil.
And when you mentioned that you recorded at Skywalker Sound, Shaun and I both went, ooh.
We did. We squeaked a little bit.
That's really cool.
That is really cool. And
he brings up a lot of interesting points, and I really want to get to some of those Big Finish he talks about.
Yeah, no lie. I've enjoyed the last couple of Leela stories that we've done, not just here, but even, Townsend and Chang, and
well, she was still great.
She was still great. Yeah, I've been really enjoying going back and see her, and it holds an extra bit of meaning for me knowing that I have her autograph. I saw her galley. So looking forward to that. I don't know when we're going to get them in there though.
Yeah,
they're out there somewhere, but
that's the problem with Big Finish is there's so much Big Finish.
We could do just a Big Finish podcast.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
we could never
we
could never touch any other format of Doctor Who and just do Big Finish, and because they're at that point now where there are as many or more Big Finish audios than there are live action Doctor Who episodes.
Does that include missing, or is that what we have?
Total.
Wow. That's impressive.
Sheer numbers. Now, I'm not talking individual half-hour episodes. I'm talking story arcs, but...
Well, yeah, that makes sense.
course, I don't know. If you did it episode-wise, I'm sure they'd still be out on top, too, because there's four parts to it.
If you break each Big Finish down to each episode, yeah.
Not bad to outlive the show you started on. So,
and after starting in the wilderness years.
Yeah.
And really in less time. That's almost a bigger feat.
It is. Now, I've been chomping at the bit to get to some of the Tom Bakers, and I'm glad that he addressed the voice, because that's kind of the thing that we talked about, like with Peter Davison, that it was really jarring initially, that I was almost like, who is this guy? And I kind of had to think of Time Crash Peter Davison as opposed to original series Peter Davison to kind of put myself in the mindset. So I was curious to know how Tom was going to do that, because he still sounds like Tom Baker. I've heard a little bit of him, but it's different.
Yeah. Did you see that picture of Janet Fielding back in the studios?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, she's back to record more.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Oh, good. I mean, she must be doing better.
She must be on the mend. And she looked good in the picture.
Good.
She didn't look sick to me, so I think that's good.
That's good.
Let's move on to our reviews.
Are you ready for the meat of the matter?
First up, Apollo 23 by Justin Richards. An astronaut in full spacesuit appears out of thin air in a busy shopping center. Maybe it's a publicity stunt. A photo shows a well-dressed woman in a red coat lying dead on the crater of the dark side of the moon, beside her beloved dog Poochie. Maybe it's a hoax. But as the Doctor and Amy find out, these are just minor events in a sinister plan to take over every human being on Earth. The plot centers on a secret military base on the moon. That's where Amy and the TARDIS are. The Doctor back on Earth, and without the TARDIS, there's no way he can get to the moon and save Amy and defeat the aliens. Or is there? The Doctor discovers one last great secret that could save humanity. Apollo 23.
Dun, dun, dun!
Really that big?
I liked this one. Now, maybe it's because I finally got a good one.
Or a decent one.
A decent one. Well, this is the funny thing. I was going back and I was looking at the schedule. And you guys, I've been taking a lot of heat from you and Glenn about, I didn't finish Story of Martha. Didn't finish Story of Martha. Which I did eventually. But then I realized...
But that wasn't your book to read.
That wasn't even my book to read. I did that as extra credit.
Yes.
I had my assignment done. My assignment was Gareth Roberts' Only Human.
That's very true.
Or Being Human. No, Only Human.
Only Human.
So, yeah, Story of Martha
We were just giving you a hard time because we both had read all of each other's stories at
Yeah, well, no, I didn't, but...
well, Story of Martha is just that bad.
It's just that bad. So maybe it's unfortunate that I'm rating this one higher than I need to or should, just because I feel like I've enjoyed it the best of the books that I've done.
I can totally see that.
You know,
oh, yeah.
And it's a fun romp. It is a very well done book, and amazingly, it's the first one in the new
Matt Smith
BBC
series
line where they've got to the hardcover things with Matt Smith. So this is kind of the first Matt Smith book. So this book was commissioned before there were a lot of episodes for Justin Richards to look at. You know, I'm sure he had access to probably the show notes and the Bible from Stephen Moffat and the direction that he was going to take the Doctor. But still, this is not the well-established, we've seen it, we know what we're doing Doctor. This is the first time out of the box.
It's true.
And he nails it. There were so many fantastic bits of dialogue and things that you could see Matt Smith doing, and the way the Doctor is portrayed in this book were good. Now, I had not read all of the back of it. I'd read, honestly, I just, it's a spaceman on the cover. That's all I need, right?
And he's holding a sandwich. Holding
a burger. That doesn't get better than that.
Burger.
So, well, because he appears at the, well, it was the Perfect Burger was the name of it.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So,
yeah.
you know, he obviously got lunch. I'd kind of left off with, maybe it's a hoax. Now, I feel bad that reading this description, you pretty much know the rest of the book at this point. They've encapsulated this entire 250-page story down to one one page worth of
Not even.
Of synopses, not even that. Because it's I mean, let's see. The Doctor discovers one great secret that could save humanity: Apollo 23. Well, that's the name of the book. I wonder what it could be. But we'll break it down for you here. Now, this one, Keith will be able to actually send some input in as well.
It's been a long time since I've read this.
It is his book. In fact, this was back in the early days. This was 2 years ago when we started the podcast, and you were falling in love with your man crush of Matt Smith. You went out and bought this.
My man crush of the 11th Doctor.
Yeah, your man crush on Matt Smith.
I've watched some Matt Smith stuff, and
it's got his picture on it.
it does, and it's a very young looking.
It's a very young looking Matt Smith,
especially compared to my cover.
It's a very young-looking Amy, too.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it almost looks more like Amelia Pond than Amy Pond on the cover of this. But, so we do. We open with this astronaut, fully suited, appears in the shopping center, and he's... Oh, I suppose we should throw out these spoiler warnings at this point, because we are reviewing the book, so we're going to talk plot. But he's there, and he just appears out of nowhere. Meanwhile, you get some very unfortunate people that are dropping dead of what appears to be random asphyxiation. Out in the park. There's some great bits with the TARDIS landing. Just right off the bat. We're in the car park. What are we doing? We're going shopping. Really? Okay. And what does Amy do? She goes and buys the little ticket at the booth and sticks the ticket in the window
to make sure they don't
to make
get
sure
a ticket.
They're legal. We don't
to
want
make sure they don't get towed.
We don't want to get towed. We don't want to get ticketed. We don't want to get this. You know, it's like, really? Okay. So they go and investigate the astronaut and the deaths, and they're not really intending to. Of course, just as things happen, the Doctor gets caught up in the events, and they come back, and there's this guy, and he's writing them a ticket. And he's got his little constable hat on and everything, and Amy's like, hey, look, I'm displaying my ticket in the window as appropriate. And he says, yeah, but you're taking up 2 spots. And the Doctor looks at him and goes, we're too big to fit in one. He goes, well, you need 2 tickets then. So what would you do? What could you possibly do to get out of this ticket? You whip out the psychic paper. And the Doctor goes, look, here it is. It's my official permission to be in 2 places. I got a buy one, get one parking ticket here. And the cop looks at it and goes, well, sure enough, that's exactly what it says. I better sign it to make it legal. And he signs the psychic paper. And even though this is the brilliance of this, even though this is a scene in a book, you can see the look of absolute horror on the Doctor's face when this happens. And the cop wanders off, and he whirls on Amy, and he's like, he ruined it. What can I? And she's like, relax. And she takes the paper out and flips it backwards.
Flips it over
to use the other side of the paper. And the Doctor's like, well, yeah, that might work. So we discover that there's been some sort of wormhole. They call it the quantum link that has been established between the moon and Texas. How we got to London is happenstance. Well, crazy random happenstance, you might say. And accidental. So the Doctor backtracks the wormhole, the quantum link. I can't say wormhole because that sounds like a completely different plot. He backtracks this thing to the moon, and they get into some misadventures there. But the first of which is hey, there's a secret military U.S. air base on the moon. And you're not supposed to be here, so can I see some ID? And so we whip out, what else? The psychic paper. And this is our go anywhere, do anything, all access pass. And the guy looks at it and he goes, sure enough. Why is it printed back to front? I had to put the book down. I was laughing so hard. I could not continue reading. I was laughing so hard. And Amy, very quick, when I recovered, she recovers and says, well, it's a new security feature. It makes them harder to forge the paperwork. Oh, okay, that makes sense. And the Doctor whirls on her. I told you that wasn't going to work. It's so Matt Smith. It's so Karen Gillan. The interplay between these two characters is Justin Richards nailed it. I really appreciated that aspect of it. Yeah. It's just so well done.
Throughout the entire book.
So we get up there to the moon, and we discover that the Apollo missions ended publicly with 17. It was the last one, and they canceled the rest because of funding requests, and we just couldn't afford it. Au contraire. Rule 1, the doctor lies. Rule 2, the U.S. government lies. They're spending your money. And what did they spend it on? Apollos 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22. And we took all this stuff up and established a big giant moon base. And then a quantum link, which is a wormhole. It's
so you can just literally walk through the desert and show up on Mars.
Yeah.
Or
the moon. Yeah. You just it's a big wormhole. It's a hole that's just there, and you walk through it, and all of a sudden you're in Texas. And you walk back through it, and you're on the moon. And so because of that, we can send food and supplies and water and all kinds of things up to the moon base, so we don't need the rockets anymore. So that's why we kind of stopped the program, you know? Not that it was all being done publicly anyway, because they lied to us. Okay, cool. Secret government moon base. All right, I'm rocking. We're going. Well, what do you do here? Oh, we do science-y stuff, says the lead scientist, a Dr. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. What was his name? Jennings? Richards?
Carlisle?
No, it wasn't Carlisle. She was the military.
Captain Reeve?
No, those are military people. The scientist, the doctor. But not the doctor.
Agent Jennings.
Jackson. Dr. Jackson. So we get over there and
He's not on... Oh, okay, there he is. Professor Jackson. Okay.
Or Professor Jackson, pardon me. So Professor Jackson's doing sciencey things. Oh, like what? And here's where the plot thickens, as they say. We're doing research into the human brain and behavioral studies on the dark side of the moon.
Nothing good happens on the dark side.
Nothing good happens to the dark side of the moon, ever. So it doesn't take very long before, and this was one of the things that I appreciated about this, is they give you this little tidbit of the nefarious Professor Jackson, and so you're immediately, okay, this is the bad guy. You know, he's up to no good. He's mutating people. He's experimenting on them. What is he doing? And then they tell you right off the bat, well, yeah, it's a prison base, and the prisoners are being experimented on in order to remove the lack of emotional attachment to the fact that they've done these crimes. These are prisoners who were unrehabilitatable. They expressed no desire in correcting their behavior, and a lot of them didn't understand why the murder or the rape or whatever had happened was wrong to begin with. They just didn't comprehend that, and so this was designed to fix that. And it's very high-minded, noble work. Now, I am not ever going to come down on the side of, a prisoner's rights on anything. You did the crime, you do the time. But even I'm going, you don't deserve to have your brain wiped. I mean, that's kind of harsh. Let alone the fact that you're on the dark side of the moon. Something wonky going on here. But I appreciated the fact that it wasn't the mystery, because had this been a classic Doctor Who episode,
that would be the mystery.
They'd have dragged that out for like 3 parts to build the tension up. And what's going on behind door number 4? I don't care. Hurry up and get there. So these prisoners are being, experimented on, and then we find out that it's not even so much that they're blocking anything. It's an actual mind wipe. That we're taking away part of that memory and leaving it blank. And the doctor says the mind is like nature. It abhors a vacuum. You've got to have something to put back in there. Now, once again, not realizing he's as brilliant as he is. That is exactly what's going on. Because it turns out the entire hinge point of the plot is that this is an alien invasion. And the aliens are using this guy's technology, Professor Jackson, to wipe the mental slate of these humans clean and then beam down an alien intelligence to take its place. Now, the Doctor doesn't know that at this point. But that's what's going on. And I appreciated that aspect of it. I thought that was really cool. Now, as I was reading this book, I kept feeling it had elements of the familiar. There were just little touches to it that I thought, this feels like, and this is odd, this feels like a classic Doctor Who story. it's
see that.
it's the tight claustrophobic setting. We're on the moon, and then of course
base.
something has happened.
The doctor spends time in a spacesuit.
The doctor spends time in a spacesuit, which that's almost more of a new Who feel. That's a very David Tennant, kind of.
I could see Third Doctor with that,
but
too.
that's just it. There are shades of Pertwee. There's a lot of shades of Pertwee's Doctor in this story.
Which, according to the TARDIS wiki, the Doctor enthuses about how cool it was to be a prisoner on the moon. Mm-hmm. Frontier in space.
Frontier in space.
Pertwee.
Which is Pertwee. And Amy makes that, he says, it's a prison. Oh, I suppose you were locked up here. He goes, yeah, cool, isn't it? Yeah, he was, actually. So we've got the tight claustrophobic setting, the remote setting. We're on the moon, So this is almost a Hinchcliffian kind of setup for this. Oh, and then the quantum link goes down. We can't get back to Earth. We're stuck. Now, it was down before. We took the TARDIS to get up here, but, we're isolated. And the doctor's like, no problem, I can fix this. I can fix anything. And he goes and starts doing the sciencey business. And he fixes the link. And the leader of the base, the colonel, whatever his name was, they go out and they're realigning the matter emitters. And the doctor's making references to transmat. Well, I thought maybe it was a transmat beam at first, but you guys are, it was too early for that. And it's like, oh, there's a transmat reference. Because that becomes big later. I mean, that was big in Troughton's era, transmatting to the moon. Okay, Here we go. So they fire it up, and the quantum link works, and they wind up in Texas. Now, Keith, let me ask you something. You've just stepped through a portal and gone from the moon to the Earth. You've gone from the surface of the moon in your spacesuited helmet to the open, wide plains desert of Texas. What's the first thing you do?
Take off your helmet?
Take off your helmet. Do you move out of the way of the portal? No.
Well,
no.
I'd step.
You don't
far
do that.
Out,
no,
so I'm not
you
in
stand
the portal.
right there on the edge of oblivion, and you remove your helmet and take in a big old deep breath of that Texas air and go, yeah. And what happens?
You die.
No, you're fine.
Well.
Oh, except somebody sabotaged the portal again. And you wind up back on the moon. With no air and no helmet. Oh, no. Yeah, that's what happens. That was the one part of the book that I was like, seriously? You've had 3 people drop dead of asphyxiation being near this thing. They get up there, and the doctor says, so is, what's on the other end in Texas? And they're like, well, it's Texas. It's nobody there. Now, this is pretty standard for the U.S. government to handle things in this manner. It's a restricted area. Nobody can get near it. And he goes, well, surely things have gotten through. He goes, oh, yeah, we get the occasional coyote that ran through it. And what happened? They dropped dead. An eagle flew through once. Boom, dropped dead. Just a rattlesnake, maybe a scorpion. What happened to them? They dropped dead.
There's no air.
There's no air on the moon. That's the important lesson to take away from this story of all these dead critters. Which then brought up a whole image in my head of the dead animal truck. For those of you that don't live in the rural pasture of Kansas, if you're in a big city or whatnot, we literally have dead animal trucks that, if something gets obliterated on the highway.
It's the roadkill truck.
It's the roadkill truck. They come out and they have a big shovel.
Literally.
And they scrape it up and throw it in the back. You've not lived until you've seen the dead animal truck go by with hooves sticking out of the back of the...
Or been stuck behind the dead animal truck.
God, that is the worst driving ever. Oh, my God. So
on a hot summer day,
in my head, I'm picturing the moon buggy version of the dead animal truck because there's occasionally something comes through the portal. And, well, we can't leave it on the moon. We have to go clean it up. So there's... They come out in the little moon buggy and a big shovel. And
was it Sam Rockwell?
Yeah, it was Sam Rockwell. That'd be awesome. Part of his duties. I'm going to go clean up dead animals. So, yeah, the doctor and it's the doctor, the smartest guy in the room, and the seasoned astronaut who knows that the system's been wonky. What's the first thing? Let's take off the helmet. And, yeah, so they're standing there having this moment, and they're bonding, and the guys let him know something was up. They've been on the closed intercoms, but the rest of the base can't listen in, and something's afoot, but I'm not quite sure what it is, and I don't know who's involved, and I'm not sure who to trust. And it's at that moment... more sabotage, and the link goes down. And they are transported back to the surface of the moon without their helmets. And things are bad. Now, fortunately, for the Doctor, he is saved because there's still that transitional period. Because of the way this portal works, it's basically both places existing in the same space at the same time. He comes to on Earth. Lucky for him. The seasoned astronaut, not so lucky. Not so much for him. He is dead. He's on the surface of the moon being scraped up by the dead animal truck. So, very unfortunate. So the Doctor is now on Earth. That's the key point of this, is the Doctor's stuck on Earth. Amy's on the moon. The TARDIS is on the moon. How do you get from the Earth to the moon? You call Tom Hanks. No, it's in the title. You get on Apollo 13 or 23. I keep calling it Apollo 13. You get on Apollo 23.
Apparently, you weren't the only one to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't the only one to do that.
BBC or Doctor Who magazine confused it several times and published it as Apollo 13.
Did they really? So, were you at that point in the story? They kept talking about, well, I can fix it. Maybe we can work a relay from here. Maybe we can do this. Maybe I can do this. I've got to get back to the moon. At what point in time did you start going, where's the rocket?
Yeah.
Just hurry up and cut to the chase. Get to the rocket. It's there. You know it's going to be there. So then the lead general who's in charge of the project kind of looks at the other person there in the room and goes, well, there might be a way. And I'm Monty Python screaming at the book, get on with it! There's a rocket! It's in the title! These are minor problems that I have with this book. I'm making them out to be huge, but they're really minor. Amy, meanwhile, is stuck on the moon with what turns out to be a whole horde of alien-infested, zombified human beings. And it was wonderful. She encounters one of them as the plot deepens, and she's beginning to find out more and more about what's going on and the sabotage and what is really at work here. And there's this room full of people plugged into, it's like body snatchers. There's a whole room full of guys, and they're here. And the one starts chasing her. And it's even in the book. Arms outstretched like a zombie. But he's not lumbering. He's coming at her. He's ready to throttle her with his outstretched hands. I thought that was really tense. I thought it was a very well-written, wow, he's moving. Okay, and he's leaping over tables to get to her. He's not like your typical zombie, So that's cool. So in short order, it's revealed that Dr. Jackson is behind the whole thing, and that he is leading the spearhead, this vanguard of this alien invasion force to wipe memory prints. And they're starting slow and infiltrating, but pretty soon the massive download is coming, and they're going to take over every human mind on planet Earth. Okay, cool. We're there. We're rocking now. So we go back to the Doctor in the rocket, and we've driven up, and we see it over the lip of the crater that they actually have a full-size gantry and a Saturn V rocket. Another fantastic Matt Smith-ish moment. The Doctor standing there bouncing up and down on his toes, and he just can't wait to get on this thing. I mean, he's just there, and he's ready, and he's bring it on, bring it on, bring it on, bring it on, bring it on. And then, we have a problem, because it took Apollo 11 4 days to get to the moon, and Amy doesn't have that long. I've got to get there in like 24 hours. What do? And one of the science people says, oh, don't worry. We'll use the M3 variant. It was the M3 variant?
Yeah, it is.
The M3 variant. And it's a new strain of it that's been refined and perfected, and it'll get you there in no time flat. And I went, oh! That was it! That was what I was missing, because I kept thinking, this feels like a classic Who story. This feels like an old school. This feels like Pertwee. This feels like John Pertwee's getting into a rocket to go do something. Where have I seen that before?
And very recently.
And I literally couldn't put my finger quite on it. It was like, I know that I've seen this one. And until of all things, the M3 variant clicked, and I went, this is Ambassadors of Death. All of the good parts of Ambassadors of Death that we really liked are in this book.
That's true.
That's awesome. And what serendipity that we just, because I imagine 2 years ago when you read it.
Oh yeah,
Clueless, didn't get it because you hadn't seen it.
I think there's a lot of this book I would enjoy more now because I've seen more classic Who.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, absolutely, I would bet that. So we've got the M3 variant, and the rocket goes whoosh, and over the intercom we hear Geronimo, and I was like, yeah, there it is. Okay, so a little goofy fight scene happens in the rocket. Now, I consider myself to be somewhat of a space aficionado. I've seen Apollo 13. I know how big these capsules are. We live 2 hours from the Kansas Cosmosphere. It's a fairly big space center. I've been to the one in the Science and Industry Museum in Chicago and some of these other ones, okay? I know these capsules are not big. We've seen that. There's a fight sequence because it turns out that one of the guys on this mission that were handpicked to go with the doctor. Oh, and I forgot about that. Okay, before I tell that story, I got to tell this story because this was another really cool part. The CIA agent who's tasked to the force, and he's kind of given the doctor. The doctor makes some comment about it's kind of refreshing to have.
That's Agent Jennings.
That's Agent Jennings. It's kind of refreshing to have you guys believe me. I'm sitting here saying that this is an alien invasion and nobody batted an eye. And, not that I'm not thankful, because I am, but why hasn't anybody batted an eye? And Agent Jennings says, well, I've read the files. Unit, Torchwood, I know what's up. And he says, oh, well, then you know who I am. And he says, well, you're the doctor, but I thought you'd be older. Oh, there's another punch we remember. That's cool. And, of course, the doctor replies with, well, I am older. Just to further confuse it.
That's true.
But, okay, so I've seen the space movies. I know how big the capsule is. And we're rocketing to the moon. We're condensed down to the command module and the lunar module. We're docked. We're getting ready to detach and go down. One of these hand-picked crew, turns out, had been mind-wiped. And he's just got just enough personality on the surface to stay normal, but then they send him a beam of transmission, and it activates the sleeper cell programming, and he lashes out with a gigantic, heavy metal spanner, which for those of us in America is a wrench. That one bit ripped me out of the story because these things are light. The Apollo modules were made out of tinfoil.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't afford the weight. Every bit of weight we could not take into space, we didn't take into space. There's no way there would be a pipe wrench on board this thing. Ever. Okay, I'll let it go. It's a book. I'm enjoying it. It's been a good ride so far. I'll let it go. So then the guy puts his foot through the console. to ruin the, we're not going to make it to the moon, and he's smashing things up. So the doctor turns to the other astronaut and says, fix it, and I'll lead him away.
Where?
You're in a 2-room, itty-bitty... It's smaller than a Winnebago. Where are you going? And he's bouncing off walls and having this big weightless, dodge and weave kind of thing. There's no room in the capsule.
Maybe in 10 shuttles, they advanced it. They got a lot more room.
I will give you that. Except, we then how does the doctor get out of this predicament? He's maneuvered around. He's heading back into the lunar module capsule. The guy goes down to push off. And the doctor's warning him, these things are very fragile. The walls are kind of like, tinfoil. And the guy pushes off the wall, and his feet literally cave through the wall, breaching the capsule, and the dude gets sucked out into space.
Yeah.
But there was a spanner in the... Okay, let it go. So the doctor winds up on the moon. And he's bounding across the surface of the moon in his little spacesuit. He's as happy as a clam. And he sees Amy waving at him from inside the thing. And he's like, oh, okay. And she points, and he goes to the airlock, and she lets him in, and they're reunited, and how great is this? Now, remember, when we last left off, Amy was being chased by hordes of zombie people. And there was this little tinkling in the back of my mind going, what's up with that? Well, fortunately, once again, Justin Richards did not leave us hanging on this big let's draw something out. You know something's up. You know that she was being chased and hunted and pursued. And she makes some quip about, I've been hiding for days. What do you think I've been doing up here while you're off and doing that? What's the plan? And the doctor says, well, we're going to take off and nuke the site from orbit. We're going to kill everybody and everything up here. And she says, good, serves them right. So immediately the doctor knows, okay, the jig is up. I know something of it. So he strings her along for a little bit, but you're in on the joke at that point. So I was like, oh, thank you, Justin. Thank you for not making me sit here as a reader and go, I wonder what's going to happen now because, you know, she's a bad guy. I know this. I appreciate it when writers don't treat me like I'm stupid. It's just, it's one of those things I appreciate. So we get to the end of the revelation that these prisoners have been malnourished and mistreated and horribly, horribly done because the aliens don't care. It's not even about the prisoners. It's about the invasion. It's about taking over. But fortunately for us, even though Amy has been wiped and reprogrammed, there's a backup copy. Now, of course, we know this. There has to be a backup copy.
There's always a backup copy.
This was the first book, and they killed her. It would be Stephen Moffat toying with our emotions, Oswin. But so we go down into the bowels of the moon base, and there's this immense data storage facility, and it's all water-based. That the water is actually a conductive thing for this stuff to go through, and it keeps the memories and the essence of these people real.
Which comes from where?
Well, it reminded me of Genesis.
Genocide Machine?
Genocide Machine, yeah. And I thought, that's really cool. And then,
you know who wrote this?
I realized who wrote it. Justin Richards.
Yeah.
I think it's a brilliant idea. I don't mind him recycling it one bit. It was
I
cool.
think that was great.
And so the doctor gives the vial to Amy, as he and the colonel are the last two people who have not been infected. And he gives the vial to Amy because he's kind of managed with the Sonic to do some nifty reprogramming of her brain, which I was kind of like, the Sonic's doing too much again, but all right, I'll let it go. And he says, keep it safe, and keep it with you, and, protect it at all times, and keep it as close as you can. And then he makes some offhanded comment to somebody else about, well, drink the blah, blah, blah. So Amy drinks it. Because that's in her zombified state. It makes sense. Okay, I'll just drink this, and that way it's with me, and it'll be safe, and I don't have to worry about it anymore. And wakes up. And she's Amy again. Now, a chase ensues because we have to get captured and escaped at least 5 times in any Doctor Who story. I think it's a rule somewhere. And Amy's recaptured, but the Doctor gets this idea, and he goes back down into the storage vaults, and he works up all the wet works, all the vials of all the stuff into the sprinkler system. And they wedge all the doors in the room in the entire base. Everything's open, so you can't close off any part of the base. And then we disable the safeties so that you cannot shut off the fire alarm. And then we activate the sprinkler system. And his rationale for this is if you take a glass of water and you pour it into the ocean, the molecules in that glass of water will then mix with all of the molecules of all the ocean water. And you could go to anywhere on the planet and scoop up a glass of water, and some of the molecules that were in your glass originally would be in that glass again. Very nifty, high-minded concept. Not sure how true it is, but that's Doctor Who. He's explaining something. I'm willing to go with it. So now, the DNA molecules of everybody's brain matter, of all these memories, of all these personalities, of the mind, is now being force-fed to everybody on the base through the sprinkler system. And it's absorbing through the skin, and it's absorbing, the people are drinking it, and it's just all, it's hitting them, literally hitting them in the face with who they are. And they begin to remember, and the minds are trying to latch on to the pieces that are theirs. This is mine, and this is mine, but I don't know who that is, and, stuff like that. And it turns out to be a really genius way to work out of that plot hole. I wasn't sure how he was going to do it because I was concerned. I was really concerned that he was going to start killing people off that were zombies. And, the doctor kept telling the colonel, he says, I need to be able to put the minds back in the bodies. Don't kill these people. And I was concerned that we weren't going to get to that point. But we found a very cool way of doing it. So here we are. We're at the end of the story, right? A big happy resolution. No, there's still like 20 pages to go. What's the deal? Well, then a transmat beam, an honest-to-goodness real transmat beam, shows up and beams in the alien invasion fleet in person. And they are among the most ridiculous...
From what I remember of this story, it's the aliens that I had the biggest problem with.
They are Slovene-worthy in their idiocy. Now, full props for coming up with something that's not humanoid.
Well, there is that.
Something that's not
anthropomorphized.
And anthropomorphized, but these things are basically gigantic. I mean, they're monsters. They've got big saliva and teeth and sharp and, big eye and pretty much the most grotesque yet stereotypical sci-fi monster you could possibly think of. That's what these things are. But in the vernacular of the Christmas season, they're fragile. They're basically bloated gas bags in armor. And if you pierce the bag, as a military soldier finds out, with an office chair...
It doesn't even take vinegar.
They explode. And so I was puzzled by that, going... Where are you going with this? You've solved the mystery. We're with 20 pages left. Why is this invasion force that's so obviously ineffective going to show up now and try and take over? Well, that's the reveal. That's the hook. That's the reason they've come to take over, to download their minds into human bodies because their own species is so frail. It's that they can't handle it. Any kind of atmospheric change, any kind of this, any kind of, they fall down a flight of stairs and die. They just can't handle it. But the human beings are fairly robust, all things considered. This looks like paradise. I'm reminded of the commercial that's airing right now. It's like, our atmosphere is going to kill you anyway. I'm not concerned about it. So, well, of course, the minute you say atmospheric pressure, what happens? We're on the moon. I telegraph this ending.
Yeah.
And yes, something gets blown open, and all the air rushes out of the base, and all the aliens go pop and explode like so much gooey balloons, which is really convenient that 3 chapters ago we wedged all of the doors in the base open for the fire extinguisher plan. Because now all of the air in the base is getting sucked out, and the pressure has changed everywhere. And, so much the better. So we vanquished the Force. We've re-put the minds back into the right bodies. We get a little bit of a cleanup chapter where the Doctor and Amy have snuck back to Earth and said, yeah, we left them in charge, and they're going to fix everything, and the prisoners are coming home, and I fixed your equipment, and I'm dismantling the mind wipe machine because you're not allowed to play with that. And we get a relatively happy ending there at the end. Also, very much in Pertwee's vein with the, we kind of snuck off to leave people to clean up. I mean, that's not just a Doctor thing, but it's very much one of those things that happened in that era.
Yeah, I would agree.
So despite the problems that, the little niggling problems, I loved this book. I had a great time. It is a fun ride, and it reminds me a lot of those Doctor Who episodes that you watch, and there are inherent things wrong with the story, but you don't care.
Ride is so much
the
worth
ride
it.
was so much fun. You just don't care. You're willing to sit back and go with it, and I had a blast. And I think Justin Richards wrote a heck of a first book for them to come out with the Matt Smith line on.
I would agree from what I remember of it, and the only complaints I had was with the alien stuff. And especially the invasion force, as you mentioned. Those were the biggest complaints I had with this story. And I bought it. I still own it. Obviously. I sold the story of Martha. That should be some indicator.
That's an indicator there. Now, of course, Story of Martha wasn't Matt Smith, though.
That's true.
So it doesn't really fall
But it doesn't matter. I like Martha. I like Martha.
So I'm gonna give it a thumbs up, and you could certainly do worse. So if your local library has this one, go check it out. Go see Chrissy; she'll steer you in the direction of the Doctor Who books. If you can find it at your local Barnes and Noble,
even for $11.99, that's pretty. I don't think I paid $11.99 for it, but it was. I think it's worth that price.
The suggested retail on these is a little steep. In my mind. Now, that's coming from somebody who collected Star Trek books for years and paid $5 for them and kind of balked at that at times. So even though it's a hardback, it's a miniature hardback, because I don't know what these are called, trade paperbacks or something, but it's an actual hardback. Yeah. It's a trade hardback. $11.99 is a little steep for a Doctor Who adventure, but I enjoyed this one. I thought it was thoroughly enjoyable.
But considering all of that is an actual book in mine.
There's a lot of previews in this one, too.
Yeah.
Coming soon.
Yes.
The next 20 novels.
In fact, the first one is Apollo 23 in mine.
All right, so that's my review. Justin Richards, Apollo 23. Good read. Keith's up next with...
Touched by an Angel.
I have to laugh because Glenn's not here.
Johnathan Morris. In 2003... Rebecca Whitaker died in a road accident. Her husband, Mark, is still grieving. He receives a battered envelope posted 8 years ago containing a set of instructions with a simple message. You can save her. As Mark is given a chance to save Rebecca, it's up to the Doctor, Amy, and Rory to save the whole world, because this time the Weeping Angels are using history itself as a weapon. Dun, dun, dun!
Ooh, really?
Oh, this book is so good.
Now, just to clarify, the book's called Touched by an Angel.
Yes.
And there are weeping angels in this story?
There are weeping angels in this story.
Because I think Glenn was confused by this last week.
Okay, so as the back cover indicated, you start the book with a 4-page incident of the accident where Rebecca dies. And she starts to see this thing come towards her in the flashing of the lights. Obviously, to us, it's a weeping angel, but it cuts off before we get there. Because this story is one of those great Doctor Who stories that folds time back on itself.
Oh.
So well. Oh, so well. We continue. You start chapter 1 with Mark, Rebecca's grieving husband. And it's 8 years later. It's 2011, and you kind of follow Mark along, and as he goes through his day, he notices there's an odd statue in monitors. It's not there in real life. And so you have this very nice, creepy 3 or 4 different locations of Mark seeing this weeping angel in the monitor of a security camera that isn't there in real life. So it's the image of an angel is an angel. How it's following him all these places, I don't know. Apparently it's not that closed circuit of television. But then it culminates to he's in front of a store with a bunch of TVs and a camera. And so he's there with this angel behind him, reaching out to touch him. And then the Doctor, Amy, and Rory show up and save him from it.
Yay!
So you get that, and that's when you first get introduced to the Doctor, Amy, and Rory. Mark doesn't believe anything the Doctor says and runs off home because he's freaked out because of these angels and these monitors. Well, lo and behold, there's a camera in his apartment building. So as he's trying to enter, the angel is there and touches him and sends him back. Oh, I want to say... Oh, it was to 1994. Because this angel is weak. It doesn't have that great of strength, which folds back on itself later. So Mark shows up in 1994, and Amy, the Doctor, and Rory are trying to figure out where he went. The Doctor has a brand new timey-wimey detector. And all throughout the book, he's, well, we found you by timey-wiminess. Because the detector went off. And for Amy, the Doctor, and Rory, this entire book takes place over maybe 3 weeks. For Mark, 17 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So...
Now, does the timey-wimey detector still cause chickens to explode?
Actually, it has the reverse effect.
They implode?
It boils an egg. Which is not a side effect. It's an added feature.
It's an added feature.
Which there's
totally something Matt Smith's doctor would say.
Yes, there's a lot of... Jonathan Morris captures the Doctor, Amy, and Rory fantastically. When Mark goes back to 1994, and first thing he does, he's in university at this time in his real life because he's in his 40s. So he goes and visits his mom and talks with her and convinces her that he's a relative from Canada. Even though he doesn't sound Canadian and has a British accent.
Hey.
They throw a couple of those in there to try to... Which is great moments. And then they end up shaking hands. And this becomes a huge part of the book. His hand tingles after shaking her hand. And anytime he comes close to his young self... both versions of Mark's hand tingles, which is pretty cool.
Is the B word mentioned?
The B word?
The Blavanovich limitation effect?
We're going to get there. We're going to get there. Because we fully explore what happens when that happens. So the Doctor and Amy use the timey-wimey detector to figure out where Mark went. And Rory says, hey, we should find out more about this guy. So he volunteers to go investigate his flat. Lo and behold, the Doctor and Amy show up a week late after they determine where Mark's gone. So Rory's been hanging out in this guy's flat for a week.
Poor Rory.
And this is after Christmas Carol. Because they're married at this point.
Okay.
So he's kind of like, yeah, I get left behind. I'm used to it. And really, throughout this entire book, Rory plays a bigger part than Amy ever does. Yeah. Which is, I think, a great exploration of his character. So they go back to 1994... and they find him and track him down and stop him from interacting with his younger self. So they offer to take him back to his time. And he says, no, I can't. Because before he transported, as the synopsis mentioned, he got a letter in his own handwriting from 8 years ago saying, you have to do these things or else time gets unraveled. One of them is he takes his future wife to Rome and loses his wallet. Well, it turns out to be Mark and the Doctor and Rory helps get his wallet from a thief. And so the rest of the book follows a young Mark and an old Mark living parallel, never interacting or coming close, but the Doctor showing up to stop him from really interfering. But Mark trying to fulfill this list of otherwise, if you don't do this, this, and this, you won't meet your wife, time will unravel and cause chaos. Now, the caveat to this letter is that at the end of it, because his wife dies conveniently 8 years prior to when he gets transported back, it also mentions that you can save her. So he's also staying behind so he can possibly save his wife from dying in this car accident. So you also, throughout the book and throughout young Mark's eyes, discover the relationship between Mark and Rebecca. When you first meet them, they're friends, but they're not romantically involved. They both have their own boyfriend and girlfriend, and the angels are constantly there. There's 5 of them, or 4 of them, constantly there, always about to strike, unless the Doctor, Amy, and Rory stop them. And that's by preventing paradoxes from happening. Now, this is the one problem with this book, is reading it post The Angels Take Manhattan. In this, the angels are feeding off of paradoxes and the potential of what could have happened if the paradox doesn't happen, or if the paradox, because it's kind of a Johnathan Morris takes a logical step, not knowing what happens future. The angels feed off the potential time energy of those they send back in time.
Right.
So a paradox would be infinite amount of that time, because it's constantly folding back in on itself. Well, Angels Take Manhattan kind of blows an entire hole in that idea.
Because it's poisoning the well instead
Yes. So that's the biggest problem with this book, is the idea that the angels are feeding off of the paradoxes instead of getting poisoned by them. So the Doctor shows up and continues to thwart the paradoxes from happening and make sure they get set right. One of which was a great bit, was Mark and Rebecca's wedding day. Old Mark happened to be there and caused an accident with the limo, which also was caused because the Doctor ran out in front of him. The limo was behind him. Chain reaction. So the Doctor has to get Rebecca there on time. So they show up 5 minutes late to the church. So they all hop in the TARDIS and jump forward or jump back 5 minutes. Get out. It's rainy. A car drives by, splashes her wedding dress. And the Doctor's like, seriously? He goes back in time, gets her wedding dress, gets her in the TARDIS, and she's like, I can't put this on in 5 minutes. It took me an hour and a half to get ready. And he's like, all right, come on in. And so it eventually all works out. So they get married and everything goes as according to plan.
That's
and then,
awesome.
So there's this great bit with the TARDIS and him getting her to work, getting her to the wedding. And obviously, this is the second instance at this point where he uses mind control on people to make them forget what happened, so that time continues. She doesn't know she went through this 3-hour process of getting in an accident and everything. So she was late for the wedding, but ended up not being late for the wedding because of the Doctor and the TARDIS and older Mark.
She just showed up on time as far as
she showed up on time as far as she was concerned. And so there are several instances where he uses almost master-like hypnosis on various people. And throughout all of this, there are 3 or 4 different times where the angels are there because of a potential paradox, trying to feed off of this. But it turns out that there's one major paradox they're trying to feed off of indefinitely. And that's the climax of the book. You mentioned the Blanovich limitation effect.
Mm-hmm.
There is an entire sequence where, after the wedding, old Mark kind of runs off because they let him watch young Mark's toast. He wanted to see his own wedding, so they let that happen. So he runs off, and throughout the course of the time, he's essentially a lawyer. They call it something different in the book, but he's a lawyer. In American terms, he's a lawyer, and becomes a partner in this firm.
Oh, what is the... Go ahead. I'll think of it.
And old Mark is the reason young Mark got the job at this firm. Unfortunately, at one point, young Mark discovers old Mark's involvement, who he's taken a whole new alias to protect himself. And discovers this and goes to confront old Mark about why he's involved in his life. And there are multiple references throughout the entire book. Whenever one of the younger characters sees old Mark, it's like, wow, that's like Mark, but 20 years older. And young Mark sees the letter that old Mark has gotten because he's going to copy it in order to leave it for himself. Otherwise, the paper would decay too much.
Right.
Sees that on the table. They both reach for it and touch. And throughout the building of this entire, up to this point, every time the angels are near a paradox, there's all this lightning going on. And lightning over surfaces and different stuff. And it intensifies and starts a massive fire. And they both get blown unconscious. And the angels are outside literally sucking on the glass, feeding on this energy caused by this effect. And then the doctor shows up, pulls them away from each other, and uses the mind control on young Mark, and sends the old Mark off, and old Mark is upset. So they continue. They have that exploration of what happens when the two Marks touch.
Okay.
Which is interesting. After old Mark runs off, young Mark is still around and ends up going home because that's what the doctor told him to. A second Rory shows up. Just out of nowhere.
Okay.
And he's like, yeah, I've been here a month. Take me with you. And so they're like, well, so you get transported back from the angels in the future. He's like, yep, can't say much. Spoilers.
Rory gets to say spoilers.
Several times. And so they get in the TARDIS, and the doctor's like, I can't keep the two of you straight. Well, I don't know which one of you is which. So what does he do with the future Rory? Puts a fez on him. Because future fez. Okay, that makes sense. And so they then transport off to the future. Old Mark continues on and is determined, because he's completed his list of things he needs to do in order to make sure him and Rebecca are together. And now he's on to saving her. And so he goes and sets up his truck so it prevents the accident from happening. Except the doctor, Rory, and Amy show up. And they say, no, you can't do this, blah, blah, blah. He runs off again. And then, as the angels are descending on the scene, the rest of the crew has to figure out how to prevent this. Well, even though future Rory hasn't told the doctor anything, the doctor figures it out, tells present Rory what he needs to do. Present Rory gets touched by an angel, gets sent back to a month before future Rory meets up with the doctor and Amy. So that whole issue is resolved.
Right.
There seemed to be a little bit of a missed opportunity. I don't know if this came out, if this was written or came out after Time and Space, but Amy's reaction to two Rorys probably should have been a bit more suggestive, like it was in Time and Space.
What would you do with two of you?
Yeah, exactly. There wasn't that, so that was another point where it's like, oh, okay, you missed an awesome point, but the story's so good, I'm going to let it slide.
Yeah.
And the doctor sent Rory back, and it took him a whole month to just get it accomplished, to set up cameras all around where they are, and they convince Mark he's guilt-ridden enough that I want to save my wife, but sacrificing the universe isn't worth it, or the world isn't worth it. So he runs back and pushes this button, activates cameras in a circle, capturing, and monitors, cameras and monitors in a circle, capturing all the angels surrounding Amy, Rory, and the doctor. So it has the blink effect. Every angle is covered, so the angels are constantly seen. And that resolves the issue. Except one escapes. And that's the one that sends Mark back. In the future.
In the future.
Yes.
He gets revenge.
Well, it sets up the entire sequence, or finishes the
Right.
entire sequence in order to make the entire thing possible.
Right.
So the entire story folds back in on itself perfectly.
Oh, that's cool.
There is a moment I mentioned in the beginning where Rebecca's in the car and she sees the angel coming towards her. We revisit that at the end because the accident happens. She's in the car. But Mark shows up. The older Mark. And she recognizes that this Mark is older. And they touch, and he protects her from the angel, so the angel doesn't get her. And somehow their touch shorted out the differential. So he becomes the same age as he was when he got transported back in time. Physically. Yeah. So
Okay, now wait a minute.
so old Mark, who's in his 60s now almost, touches Rebecca. He becomes the same age as he was in 2011. Mentally, he's the same. Physically, he's young again. Granted, and they make a point of, well, not young, but young enough. And so they take him back to his time, and they show up just after they pick up Rory again, after staying for a week, and leave Mark at his place, and they go off happily ever after.
Okay, so
Somehow...
Mark saves the wife.
No, Mark doesn't save the wife.
Mark doesn't save the wife. She still dies. Oh, okay.
But the wife's touch somehow reverts him back to the age.
So he still gets a pseudo happy ending by being able to continue on, despite all of the back and forth and the up and down and the old and young.
Yes.
He still gets to kind of resume where he left off.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I was trying to figure out how I was like, what
yeah.
Okay.
That's the nice thing about this is the circle is complete. The wife still dies as it's meant to be, which I would have almost felt cheated if they would have saved the wife.
I thought where you were heading with that.
After the whole, he redeems himself because I caused all this because I want to save my wife. I'm not going to turn around and change anything. And then comes back and pushes the button to activate the cameras and the monitors to capture the angels. I would have felt cheated if he was able to save his wife. And I was really glad that didn't happen. And really, my only two complaints with the story is the kind of cheesiness of his physicality reverting, the wibbly-wobbliness of Angels Take Manhattan and the feeding of the paradoxes, and the very small little bit of missing the joke of the two Rorys.
Yeah.
And that's my only complaints about this. This is such a good story. And there's a lot I didn't touch on because I want it to be the journey to be as enjoyable as I had it, because there's a lot of suspenseful moments with the angels throughout the years as young Mark is oblivious to all of this, and the Doctor and Amy and Rory and Mark, old Mark, trying to stop or trying to make sure whatever happened. Nice little lost reference.
Little happened.
And there are some very nice suspenseful moments with the angels.
Did you obviously you found it? This one of the things that I was a little concerned with is could you read a book knowing that weeping angels are scary? They're inherently creepy and scary and everything like this. And it sounds like it's unfortunate that Angels Take Manhattan is kind of put the kibosh on this one, because it sounds like from what you've described that this one kind of balances that perfect blend between Blink
it really
and
is.
The Time of the Angels, the two-parter, that it was able to meld those two together in a way where Moffat didn't really try to incorporate the idea of the image of the angel. It was, we're just going back to Blink. We're just going to go back to kind of the status quo and what's been established. This
really does incorporate that. And initially, I had issues trying to swallow the image of an angel as an angel on every monitor in London. But it was done so well and so creepily that I was okay with it. It's like, I don't understand how this works, but I'm going to go with it.
But you're just going to go with it.
And then there's a bit in the final, in the last scene where they get him captured, where they reference closed-circuit television. Well, one of them somehow escaped to non-closed circuit.
Which is why it's now.
Well, which is why he can transport throughout all of London. Okay. That's enough.
I'll buy that for $1.
That's all I needed. It is so good. I highly recommend it. It is one of the best Doctor Who novels I've read. Granted, I've read 4. But
and one of them, Story Martha.
If I had read this before we finished the Doctor Who photo challenge instead of Shada, this would be my picture.
Really?
Yes.
Wow,
it is that good. And if you have time, read it. If you don't, make time to read it because it is that good.
Can I borrow it?
Absolutely.
Sweet.
There you go.
I don't have time, but I'll make time to read it, and I'll return yours.
Oh, that's a trade.
So we'll swap.
You've got Christmas holiday.
I do. Well, yeah, but I've got
to unpack.
Well, 2 winners then
Absolutely.
On the book reviews for this time out, which is a refreshing change of pace from where things have been. Coming up, we finish The Time Monster next week on Friday Night Who, episodes 4, 5, and 6. In keeping with the new edict of all 6-parters are split into 2 or more. just in time for Glenn to come back and get us a master archive. We're going to be talking about The Time Monster and Big Finish, mainline series number 21, Dust Breeding. So that's your homework assignment for this week, is make sure you listen to Dust Breeding, which you and I have to... Well, you've already done it, though, haven't you?
No, I haven't listened
to that one. Okay, so you and I have to listen to that. Obviously, this is Christmas week, so
we're going to be a little late on our recording. It looks like we're going to record Wednesdays, so our episode will probably be out Thursday.
I thought we were recording Christmas.
Well, we might record. It'll either be Tuesday or Wednesday.
Oh, right, because Christmas is Tuesday.
Christmas is Tuesday.
Oh, wait, why aren't we recording Sunday?
Because Glenn's has Christmas stuff he has to do.
That's
when he
right.
gets back.
Okay. So yeah,
late into the night because I have to work overnight.
Because you're working the overnight. That's why we decided. You're right. Okay. So either way, so that's the other thing that was throwing me because I couldn't remember when Christmas fell. So, all right. So either way, we will be a little
Tuesday
bit
or
late.
Wednesday, most likely Wednesday.
We'll be a little bit late this week with the holidays, which is kind of to be expected, but that just gives you more time to listen to Dust Breeding. And then the following week, we've got Christmas Invasion on Friday Night Who, which will be the 28th. Even though it's after Christmas, I know, faux pas. We're going to watch our Christmas story after Christmas.
It's before our actual Christmas episode.
Well, we'll have already watched The Snowman.
But we will be reviewing it.
But we'll be reviewing The Snowman after the Christmas Invasion in episode 105.
Yes.
So there's that. And, of course, further scheduling has been put on the website, so you can look at that if you're interested. And other than that, I think that's going to do it for us. Anything else you want to add?
Before we sign off, stick around for Dr. Phil's book reports. He sent in some additional feedback on Fourth Doctor Tom Baker Lost Stories audiobooks. So that will come up as soon as we sign off.
All right. Well, not hopefully, because I'm sure he'll come back, probably with some fantastic stories. But be sure and write Glenn at travelingthevortex.com.
Tell him you want that side trip.
If for no other reason, then, well...
Vindicate us.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good reason there. I think that'll do it then. Signing off for this edition of Traveling the Vortex, I'm Shaun.
I'm Keith.
Good night, everyone.
Be seeing you.
I couldn't remember what I said. It's got to go in order.
Well, there's that cheers missing.
I know. It's weird, isn't it?
It is weird. I understand what you went through.
It's just off.
Just slightly. One dimension to the left. or it's 1 second from normal time.
1 second from normal time. Second star to the right, straight on till morning. You're about to enter a dimension of sight and sound. You've left reality and entered the scary door.
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.
What now?
Communication from Watchtower Command, Mistress.
Sector 7 alert. Unauthorized capsule entry imminent. Repeat, unauthorized capsule entry imminent. Stand to on Sector 7.
It's Saturday Night Tea Time in 1977 all over again.
Coming soon from Big Finish Productions. The Fourth Doctor Lost Stories box set.
I've been to the year 4000, and it wasn't like this.
Stand and deliver.
The foe from the future.
You appeared out of thin air.
Did we? Are you sure? My apologies, Doctor. Leela.
He speaks through the air, like Zoannon.
Yes. Roundhead spy!
And you are a priest holding an upside-down crucifix in my face. I can only assume this is an exercise in exorcism. Would I be right?
Great Zoannon! You would wish me to know fear before I die.
Someone tried to kill me within a minute of my arrival, and that's quick, even by my standards. The Valley of Death.
1977? But that's impossible.
Any questions? Yes, you, sir. The gentleman in the scarf.
Hello there.
Do you know how to fly a plane?
Do I know how to fly a plane? I think we're about to find out. We haven't been introduced. I'm the doctor.
These humans are so easy to manipulate.
The doctor? Oh, yes. The scientific advisor from UNIT.
Contact the minister. I want all air defences on maximum alert.
Yes, sir.
Blade-like incisors like those of a vampire bat.
If only I was not tied to this pole.
An archway hanging in thin air.
I have seen such an entrance before. It is a force field. The spider will detect vibrations in its web. I told you not to move, you foolish woman.
It's too late. Subscribers get more at bigfinish.com.
Dr. Phil here with a bit of an audiobook report on Big Finish's Fourth Doctor Lost Stories, The Foe from the Future and The Valley of Death. Now, The Foe from the Future originally had the place that Talons of Wing Chiang had, and The Valley of Death was a story by producer Philip Hinchcliffe that was submitted while Douglas Adams was script editor. So it was a story that didn't quite make it onto screen. Now, what's nice about both these stories, while the first season of The Doctor and Leela is quite compelling and really captures the flavor of the era, The Foe from the Future and The Valley of Death both feel like they're from the period, but feel a bit more epic and great larger scale than any of the stories from season 1 of the Fourth Doctor. And as an example, I was really kind of impressed more with the Lost Stories box set than with the original run of Fourth Doctor stories. And partly I think it's because by now Louise Jameson and Tom Baker have really hit a groove in their working relationship together, because the chemistry feels exactly like it was on television and is a great listen. And here's a small example from the climax of Foe from the Future, but don't worry, hopefully it doesn't give very much away.
Doctor, they're nearly here!
Well, I'm nearly done. Bit of a lash up, but serviceable. Let's see.
Oh, you fixed it!
Not exactly, but near enough. As long as I hold these two wires together, you should have a signal to guide you down the time tunnel, albeit a weak one.
But it's not portable. How will you get a carrier beam?
I won't. I'm a Time Lord. I have certain abilities in the Vortex. I might be able to direct my journey through willpower alone.
Might?
I can't be sure. I could end up lost like Leela. It's not ideal, but it's the only option. In you go.
I'm staying.
What?
I drank the water.
Oh. Geflo, I'm so sorry.
About an hour ago, in my office. I had a glass of water. If I go, I'm changing into one of them. I don't want to do that.
That might be another way.
There's not. You've a better chance if I stay here and hold these wires together. You say you're going to stop this timeline ever existing. None of this will have happened. I won't feel a thing.
I don't know. I've no idea how it works. I've never been erased from reality. Maybe this world will vanish. Maybe it'll be shunted into a redundant timeline.
I'll still be killed?
There's no way to tell.
Hadn't you better get going?
Yes. Goodbye, Geflo. Thank you.
Goodbye, Doctor. So, let's see what happens now.
What really impressed me when listening to this box set was how much that Tom Baker really feels like he's inhabiting the role the same way he did in the 1970s. And, having watched, the entire run of Tom Baker in order when I was 12, I was really struck by how great and strong his performance was and how much personality just comes through. And, he is a bit of a madman if you listen to any of his interviews and such, but I was really struck by the fact that I was like, I'm listening to Tom Baker do the Fourth Doctor again years later, and this is really quite a gift that Big Finish has given us. And I'm really grateful to get that we get Series 2 of the Fourth Doctor Adventures with Mary Tamm's Romana and K9 Mark II, which is going to be a bit strange, especially since Mary Tamm passed away just a few months ago. But at least we can all be very grateful that we have a little bit more of Romana 1 after The Key to Time.
Coming soon from Big Finish Productions.
This say he's bulletproof.
Some people are suggesting it's spring-heeled Jack.
That he can run faster than a train.
A vengeful vigilante.
And one cloud from his fist blasts you across the street.
Oh, as I live and breathe, Professor George Lightfoot and Henry Gordon Jago.
Let the experiment begin.
K9, did you just hear that?
Affirmative, Mistress.
Get that shut down or you'll blow us all to Kingdom Come.
I must be hallucinating. I can see a little hut with police books written on it.
Well, if it is an hallucination, it's a damn odd one.
Energy within TARDIS now surging to 3 times normal levels, Master.
Ah, yes, well, in that case, it is serious. Well, more like catastrophic, I'd say.
What are they? Must be millions of them and coming straight at us.
There's been an unusual spate of bodies brought to the lab. A large collection of unidentifiable corpses.
At this depth, it should have been crushed.
Crushed? I landed a TARDIS in the heart of a star once, barely dented the paintwork.
Well, if I didn't know better, I'd say they've been, yes, cooked.
This is Romana.
Hello.
And this is my other friend, K9.
K9? Oh, because he's a dog.
Yes, he is.
Affirmative.
Doctor Who, The Fourth Doctor Adventures, Season 2.
Barkeep, cancel that steak and ale pie.